My cousin, orphaned and bereft of her parents, was taken into the palace by my mother. From that moment forth, she enjoyed the affection of my parents, the protection of my elder brother, and the admiration of my younger brother. Even my betrothed extolled her exquisite beauty and grace. Yet there was one exception. He was entirely captivated by me, his heart and gaze unwaveringly fixed upon my being, indifferent to anyone else. I married him, and we shared a blissful and carefree existence together. However, fate took a cruel turn. He met his demise, stabbed countless times, and then cast down a precipice. I knelt for 3 days and nights, imploring His Majesty to thoroughly investigate the murder of the prince consort. After 3 days, I received a message from His Majesty's personal eunuch, Master Shi. Your Highness, the investigation has been concluded with clarity. The prince consort met an unfortunate fate at the hands of bandits. Those brigands have long since fled, and the Jingao government is actively pursuing the culprits. Given the circumstances, I urge you to mourn in moderation. His Majesty is preoccupied with state affairs, and you should return. It was not bandits. He was stabbed more than 30 times. Clearly a crime of vengeance. Your Highness, His Majesty insists it was bandits, Master, she stated with unwavering certainty. I felt a lump in my throat. Tears mingling with the rainwater, flowing from my lips into my heart. After a moment, I softly replied, Father is right. I have been too stubborn, causing him undue worry. I bowed towards the direction of the Qianqing Palace and gracefully withdrew. Upon returning to the princess's residence, I collapsed. When I awoke, 3 days had passed. Green Acacia had slightly reddened eyes, but forced a smile, saying, The Empress is concerned for you and has sent numerous tonics. Your Highness, please take care. The prince consort cherished you dearly. If you neglect your health, he would surely be troubled in the afterlife. Oh. Outside, the sound of drums and gongs filled the air, creating a lively atmosphere. What is happening outside? Oh, it's nothing, Your Highness. You are still unwell. Please rest a while longer. I donned my robe and made my way towards the door. Your Highness, please don't go. Green Acacia hurried after me, accidentally knocking something over. She, my devoted maid, who was usually composed and adept, seemed alarmed today. Clearly, something grave was afoot. I opened the grand doors of the princess's residence, but was halted by the guards at the entrance. Your Highness, the Empress has commanded that you remain within the residence and not venture outside. So, I have been placed under house arrest. What is happening outside? Today marks the wedding of Princess Duanhua and young Master Luo. They were finally to wed. Why must it be on this day? Such grandeur rivals that of a royal wedding. A hint of pity flickered in the guards' eyes before they lowered their heads in silence. Green Acacia tugged at my sleeve. Your Highness, please return. 2. Later, I learned that the wedding ceremony of Duanhua had indeed been conducted with the same grandeur as that of a princess. The Prime Minister's residence was exceedingly cooperative, showcasing opulence. My mother bestowed countless dowries upon Duanhua and granted her the exquisite beaded curtain she had received on her own wedding day. The two were praised as a perfect match, a couple born for one another. They likely forgot that Luo Qin was once my betrothed, while Duanhua was merely the daughter of a former governor. After the demise of her parents, she endured great hardships before arriving in the capital, seeking refuge with my mother. Upon hearing her tale, my mother lamented the misfortunes of her own sister and brother-in-law, and subsequently petitioned my father to grant Duanhua the title of princess, showering her with affection as if to compensate for her suffering. At that time, I too felt sympathy for her, ensuring that she was prioritized in all matters of clothing and sustenance. Yet, as time passed, some things seemed to change. I wore the hairpin she gifted me, believing it to symbolize our deep sisterly bond, only to be reprimanded by my mother for being inconsiderate and for claiming the heirloom meant for my cousin. I hastily explained that it was a gift from Duanhua. However, Duanhua merely bit her lip, tears welling in her eyes, remaining silent. Later, she confided in me her deep-seated fear, stating that as a newcomer, she dared not oppose anyone, especially the Empress. Though the Empress is my aunt, she is also your mother. You may defy her without consequence. But if I were to oppose her, she might cast me aside. Sister, I am truly terrified. If my mother were still here, she began to weep, as if she bore an immense grievance. Nanping, what are you doing? My elder brother, the Crown Prince, scolded angrily as he approached and pushed me aside. Meanwhile, My younger brother, Li Chengin, shielded Duanhua behind him, softly comforting her. Don't cry. I'll take you out of the palace to play, all right? He shot me a reproachful glare, as though I were the villain. That day, not only did I receive no apology, but I also faced a scolding. The crown prince accused me of being selfish and callous, while my brother Li Cheng'an declared he no longer wished to associate with me. They embraced Duanhua, vowing to take her out to find a delightful place. Don't worry, we'll take you there. It's a secret spot. Even the elder sister doesn't know about it. If I tell you, you mustn't cry anymore, Li Cheng'an proclaimed loudly, ensuring I could hear him. I seethed with indignation, wishing to argue, yet found myself at a loss for words. That year, I was 15. At 15, Li Nanping was indeed clumsy with words. I sensed something amiss yet could not articulate what was wrong. 3. I left the palace in search of Luochen, recounting my grievances and the entire sequence of events. Luochen, incensed, declared he would confront Zhao Duanhua personally, demanding an apology from her. My heart warmed at his concern, and I quickly protested that it was unnecessary. I could simply ignore her from now on. I was unwilling to stir up conflict and drag Luochen into this chaotic situation. Perhaps subconsciously, I did not want Luochen to associate with Zhao Duanhua. Luochen praised my kindness. Nanping, you are simply too benevolent. You must change. Or I fear you will be bullied in the future. That won't happen. As long as you remain steadfast, I shall not feel sorrow. 15-year-old Li Nanping was far too considerate of others, to the extent that I neglected my own feelings of joy and sorrow. My 16th birthday coincided with Zhao Duanhua's coming-of-age ceremony. My mother decided to merge the two celebrations into one grand event. Though both Zhao Duanhua and I were the hosts, everyone gravitated towards her. My mother gifted her an opulent set of adornments, while the crown prince presented her with a luxurious garment, and Li Cheng'an bestowed upon her an ancient guqin. He beamed as he said, "This qin is named Nine Heavens Ringing, once played by Su Shi. Sister, look, does it suit her?" I noticed that at some point, Li Cheng'an began to address me by my given name while referring to Zhao Duanhua's sister. Zhao Duanhua's slender, fair fingers gently plucked the strings of the qin, revealing a naive and innocent smile. In that moment, I finally comprehended the meaning behind a fleeting smile that captivates all and a beautiful maiden whose smile turns the stars. At just 14, she was already beginning to reveal her enchanting charm. She radiated brilliance, while I felt a profound solitude. My heart ached like a vast ocean. Yet I feigned indifference like smoke. It mattered not, for I had Luochen. I awaited his gift, and he presented me with a jade hairpin, exquisite in its verdant hue. I affixed the pin to my hair, feeling utterly content. Zhao Duanhua gazed at my hairpin, her eyes shimmering with unspoken words. I grew increasingly vexed, and as soon as the celebration concluded, I hastened to leave the palace in search of Luochen. To my dismay, he was nowhere to be found. I returned to the palace, filled with regret, and quickly succumbed to slumber. In the dead of night, I was abruptly awakened by a commotion outside. I inquired with Green Acacia about the disturbance. She replied, fuming, "It's that girl causing a ruckus. Returning from drinking with others, and now she's back, sick and crying, throwing everyone into disarray. She'll sleep until noon while those attending to her will suffer greatly under her whims." So, Zhao Duanhua had returned late. I couldn't help but ask, doesn't the Empress care for her? Today is her coming-of-age ceremony. The Empress said to let her enjoy herself, and she would bear the consequences. A secret pain surged within me. This was not right. It should not be so. When I turned 14, my mother had told me I was an adult now, and I must not err and bring shame upon the royal family. On my birthday, she had instructed me to adhere to propriety and not act recklessly. I longed for Luochen, yet I dared not wait for him until nightfall, fearing I might miss the palace curfew and cause my mother distress. Yet my mother told Zhao Duanhua to indulge herself, leaving the repercussions to her. Why was it so different? The chill had set in. I felt so cold. 4. It was not until the following evening that I finally encountered Zhao Duanhua, her face clouded with sleepiness. She offered me a gentle smile and softly said, "Last night, I played late with my brother the Crown Prince, brother Cheng'en, and brother Luo, and I disturbed you, sister. It was my fault. Brother Luo gifted me a pool of starlit water. It was truly beautiful. The hairpin you wear is also exquisite. Brother Luo and I deliberated for a long time before selecting this one, which transitions from green to the tip. It suits you perfectly. With a graceful bow, she departed. I removed the hairpin from my hair, and for the first time, a surge of hatred welled up within me. I wished to shatter the pin. Yet, I reconsidered. I should not take her words at face value without consulting Luo Chen. I waited at the Luo residence for an extended period until Luo Chen finally arrived. Dressed in resplendent robes, he appeared both noble and handsome, yet I sensed a hint of guilt in his expression upon seeing me. I inquired about the hairpin. After a moment's hesitation, he confirmed its significance. I merely did not know what to choose, so I accompanied Sister Duanhua. And what gift did you give her? His lips pressed tightly together, and he fell silent. The pool of starlight was originally a gift he had once promised to me. In his attempt to illuminate the pool with twinkling stars, he had secretly searched for crystals. I feigned ignorance of his intentions while covertly gathering crystals for him. It took him an entire year to adorn a cave with crystals. Once a candle was lit, the crystals would sparkle brilliantly, casting their light into the pool, which reflected onto the cave ceiling. The sight of the shimmering stars was like a beautiful dream. I waited until I was 16, anticipating his gift. I thought he must have planned to present it to me on a significant occasion. Little did I know. My waiting had culminated in him bestowing it upon Zhao Duanhua. The green on that jade hairpin was a bitter irony. I smashed the pin against the ground, and shards flew, cutting his hand and drawing blood. I was taken aback, and before I could utter an apology, he erupted in anger. Nanping. I did indeed give the starlight to Duanhua, but you possess so much already, while Sister Duanhua has nothing. Must you be so petty and calculative? Petty? If I were truly so, I would not have cherished her as a sister from the very beginning. However, Zhao Duanhua does not deserve my affection. I spoke coldly. Word by word, Luo Chen, what I possess is inherently mine, neither stolen nor taken. Why should I share it with others? If you truly care for her, then it is best you give her your possessions, rather than being generous with what belongs to me. That pool of starlight is mine. What objection do you have to sharing it with her? Or do you presume I am merely a trinket in your possession, to be commanded at your whim? His words pierced me, rendering me speechless, and I could only turn away in silence. Luo Chen and I had never exchanged such harsh words before, yet it was all prompted by Zhao Duanhua. That night, my anger kept me awake. In my dreams, I rehearsed countless times how to argue my case convincingly. Unfortunately, I would never have the opportunity to put those rehearsals into practice. I had turned 16, the age at which I should have been discussing our marriage date with Luo Chen, yet the Luo family remained silent, and my mother did not bring it up. Luo Chen and I ceased all communication, becoming as strangers. Meanwhile, Zhao Duanhua and Luo Chen spent their days wandering and their nights shopping. The palace restrictions seemed to hold no significance for her. I had once inquired about the palace's restrictions with my mother, but before she could respond, Li Cheng'en interjected. Sister was in Fuzhou previously. She hasn't had the chance to explore the capital properly. What harm is there in her going out more? She does not possess your good fortune, being born into a beautiful place. You already have so much, why must you begrudge her? I pondered for a moment before realizing he was referring to Zhao Duanhua. My expression turned cold. You lament her not having explored the capital. Yet, do you know that since my birth, I have never seen the night outside the Forbidden City? Li Cheng'en appeared momentarily confused and fell silent. My mother, looking downcast, seemed unwilling to hear more from me. She dismissed the meal, indifferent to whether I had eaten enough. Li Cheng'en hurriedly slipped away, whispering as he passed, You have angered mother. It would be best to kneel in the Buddhist hall and copy scriptures. Recently, she has taken to reading the Flower Adornment Sutra. Mother was indeed angry. She no longer saw me. At times, from a distance, I would see her smiling affectionately at the Crown Prince, Li Cheng'en, and Zhao Duanhua. But whenever her gaze fell upon me, her smile would vanish and her brow would furrow. I asked Green Blossom if I was truly so detestable. She replied with deep concern, Your Highness, how could you think that? You are so beautiful and kind, the maids and eunuchs from other palaces wish to serve you. We servants adore a master like you. I gazed at her, my emotions complex. I was beloved by the palace staff, yet it seemed my parents, brothers, and fiancé held no affection for me. Ultimately, I resolved to copy the Flower Adornment Sutra. The full text of the sutra consists of nearly 800,000 words. At first, I struggled with the writing, making frequent mistakes and having to start over repeatedly. Green Blossom grew anxious for me, her heart aching as she witnessed my trembling wrist while encouraging me with a tearful voice. Your Highness, you must find tranquility. Only with a calm heart can you write well. Do not panic. Indeed, I must remain composed. Regardless of Zhao Duanhua's flattery, my mother is ultimately my mother. My biological mother, she would not forsake her daughter for an outsider. As long as I could write the scriptures well and demonstrate my filial piety, she would not overlook me. I calmed my mind and indeed, my writing became progressively better. Each flower embodies a world, each leaf a Buddha. To be a dragon or elephant among the Buddhas, one must first endure as cattle or horses among mortals. Not seeking comfort for oneself, but wishing for all beings to be free from suffering. For 3 whole months, I diligently copied the scriptures. On the day I completed the manuscript, I had it beautifully bound and presented it to my mother, hoping to please her. At last, she agreed to see me. As she perused the book, her brow relaxed. Well done, you have finally become sensible. Joy began to blossom within my heart. The hardships of those 3 months were worth it. We chatted as we always had, until Zhao Duanhua suddenly flung herself into my mother's embrace. Auntie, can you guess where Brother Luo took me today? He introduced me to his mother and sister. They liked me very much and expressed their hopes for my swift marriage. Sister, what are you doing here? My mother's palace? Why should I not be here? Or did she truly regard my mother as her own? What did her words mean? Marriage? Marrying whom? 1,000 questions surged forth, crowding my throat and rendering me momentarily speechless. After a long pause, I finally found my voice, trembling with rage as I asked, Mother, what does she mean? Is it true that Luo Qin and Duanhua share mutual affections? Is Mother planning to support their union? What about me? What am I to you? I finally lost my composure, my voice quivering as I questioned her. Nanping, you are the legitimate eldest princess. Good matches are abundant. This world is filled with countless young men for you to choose from. Whoever you desire, Mother shall grant you. But for Duanhua, there is only Luo Chen. Mother, what are you saying? Luo Chen and I were betrothed in childhood, growing up together as childhood sweethearts. Does 15 years of affection mean nothing compared to his 2 years with Zhao Duanhua? Then why has the Luo family not come to propose a date? Do you still not understand? I felt as though struck by lightning. Indeed, if Luo Chen truly had intentions at 16, he should have approached his mother to set a date and proceed with the ceremonial rites. Yet he had done nothing. My mother continued. The Luo family has proposed a match with Duanhua, and I have consented. This matter is settled. Duanhua, do not act recklessly. She rose abruptly, and in a moment of carelessness, the flower adornment sutra slipped from her lap and shattered upon impact. The Empress furrowed her brow. A senior maid attempted to retrieve it, but I swiftly stepped forward, snatching the book and flinging it vehemently away. The porcelain vase shattered with a cacophonous crash, eliciting a startling sound. The Empress's fury erupted. Nanping, do you not understand decorum? It is precisely my adherence to decorum that has led me to this predicament, Mother. From tomorrow onward, I shall no longer abide by your rules. Enraged, I stormed off, ignoring my mother's thunderous command. Wretched child, halt. I paid her no mind, leaving in a daze. My steps unsteady, fearing I might falter at any moment. And, let me speak to my sister. You must calm down, do not harm your health. Zhao Duanhua called out as she chased after me. Sister Nanping, wait for me. I did not intend for things to escalate to this point. But matters of love cannot simply be exchanged. Even if I yield today, will you and Brother Luocheng truly be able to hold hands and grow old together? I could endure no longer. With a sharp crack, my palm met her cheek. She gasped in shock, clutching her face, her eyes quickly welling with tears. Sister. Do not call me sister, it repulses me. Li Nanping, do not go too far. With a resounding slap, a blow landed on my cheek. I staggered back, battling dizziness, and realized the newcomers were Prince Li Chengze and Li Cheng'en. My gaze, perhaps too filled with hatred, momentarily caused Li Chengze to falter. But soon he assumed the role of the elder brother, reprimanding me. You have disappointed me greatly. How can you treat Duanhua this way? Apologize to her. I spat blood. My teeth had been shattered, leaving a metallic taste in my mouth. The intense pain quelled the raging madness within me. I cast a glance at Li Chengze and Li Cheng'en. once my closest kin, and at Zhao Duanhua, whom I once wished to cherish. Yet now, they were all strangers in my eyes. I replied coldly, "She does not deserve my apology. You are unworthy of being my brothers. Today, I sever all ties with you. Li Qingze, I have no brother like you. May there come a day when someone usurps your title of crown prince, and may you graciously relinquish it. When that time comes, I shall place my hand upon your head and compel you to apologize, confessing your incompetence for having occupied the crown for so long. I hope you can remain magnanimous and harbor no resentment then." Li Qingze swayed slightly, taking a step back. I turned and walked away. As the warmth of my blood cooled gradually, the fire in my heart dimmed, leaving only an endless sorrow, a sense of suffocation and grievance entwined within me, swelling beyond control. Li Qing'an caught up and grabbed my arm. "What madness is this? Apologize to your brother and sister." I shrugged off his hand, replying icily, "Li Qing'an, I was the one who taught you to walk when you were little. I was the one who showed you how to solve your first 9 linked rings. I taught you your first characters. When you failed your studies, I hastened to transcribe your notes. What have I done to deserve your hatred? I do not hate you. It is you who is in the wrong. You should not have struck anyone." He continued to argue. I delivered another slap across his face. "I struck you. What of it?" He covered his face, and for the first time, hatred flickered in his eyes. "I simply do not like you. Do you think you are so likable? When you were born, Mother nearly lost her position and almost died in childbirth. You solved that 9-linked ring while I could not. The shame is mine. When you helped me with my notes, your handwriting was recognized by the tutor, and I still got punished. You helped me with my tasks. Could you not use your brain? You have done so much and made so many mistakes. I have gained not a single benefit from you. Why must I like you just because you are my sister?" I was at a loss for words. This was the genuine Li Qing'an. Just because I could not fulfill his desires, he hated me, resented me. Refusing to acknowledge my sincerity, I suppressed the torrent of tears welling up inside me. I could not cry in front of those who despised me. With a dry throat, I spoke each word deliberately. "Very well then. From this day forth, you shall have no sister, and I shall have no brother. We shall part ways and have nothing to do with one another." I turned away impatiently, but as I did, tears streamed down my face. He shouted behind me, "I have a sister, and her name is Zhao Duanhua, not you, Li Nanfeng." Thus, we indeed became strangers. At the palace banquet, I no longer sat beside the empress. My place was usurped by Zhao Duanhua. She laughed and chatted amiably with the empress, flirting with Li Qingze and exchanging banter with Li Qing'an. Her charm captivated everyone around, drawing all eyes to her. The onlookers glanced between her and me, their smiles laden with meaning. I feigned ignorance, drinking glass after glass under the empress's dark gaze, experiencing drunkenness for the first time in my life. I broke the rules for the first time, but the thrill of defiance felt exhilarating. Later, I rode out of the palace, galloping across the countryside, relishing the exhilaration of unrestrained freedom for the first time. I no longer allowed the empress, Li Qingze, Li Qing'an, Luo Qing, or Zhao Duanhua to occupy my thoughts. Thus, they could no longer inflict pain upon me. Yet, a lingering sense of solitude and desolation remained. Without family or friends, I felt like a wandering spirit. In the bustling world, I was utterly alone. So, when I encountered the bloodied Xia Wuo on the road, I hesitated only briefly before pulling him onto my horse. I abandoned him at the palace gates to find someone to care for him. Occasionally, Lu Ao would update me on Xia Wuo's condition, but upon seeing my disinterest, she ceased to speak of him. Eventually, on the day of the emperor's longevity celebration, the gift I had prepared mysteriously vanished, while Zhao Duanhua presented the very gift I had crafted with my own hands. That day, everyone assumed I would swallow my pride and accept this silent humiliation. Yet, I defiantly pressed a hairpin against my neck, demanding the emperor personally investigate how my gift had ended up in Zhao Duanhua's possession. Zhao Duanhua trembled and wept, unable to maintain her composure. Li Qing'an stepped forward, claiming responsibility for breaking Zhao Duanhua's gift and stating he intended to compensate her, casually taking my gift as his own. With a sorrowful expression, he lamented that he had not thought it through, merely assuming Sister Nanfeng had an abundance of treasures, thus taking one without a second thought. The emperor was enraged. He severely punished Li Cheng'en, ordering him not only to apologize to me, but also to receive 10 lashes from his own hand. Li Cheng'en cried out in despair, glaring at me with a look of pure hatred, as if I were a vengeful spirit. Upon returning to the inner palace, the Empress struck me hard across the face. Are you satisfied now? You siblings rise and fall together. Are you trying to make a fool of me before the entire court? I covered my face, my heart as cold as ashes. Though I felt a profound sorrow, I forced myself not to shed a single tear. A cold smile crept onto my lips as I retorted, you are you, and I am I. We shall never share glory or disgrace. I barged into the Emperor's chamber. Kneeling on the floor, he regarded me with a cool gaze, his fatigue and impatience barely concealed. What do you want now? What else? Such is the nature of the world. I am innocent, yet entangled in disputes, and innocence can be misconstrued as guilt. I stifled my bitterness and spoke softly. I have been wrong today and seek compensation. I desire a princess's residence. I implore the Emperor to grant me permission to relocate there from this day forth. I knelt, my forehead pressed against the icy ground, the chill awakening my senses. The Emperor's silence echoed like a drum in my ears. After a long pause, he finally said, I grant it. He referred to himself as I rather than father. I should have understood this long ago, in the royal family. The bonds of father and daughter are subordinate to the obligations of ruler and subject. I prostrated myself in gratitude and slowly withdrew. At the moment I stepped outside, my father's voice echoed softly, Nanjing, do not harbor resentment towards your mother. I fell silent for a moment and replied, yes. I moved to the princess's residence and never looked back. Out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of love. Out of sight, and out of hatred as well. As the year turned, I found myself 17. While other princesses at this age had already wed and borne children, I remained unbetrothed. It seemed my mother had forgotten this matter entirely, instead orchestrating a betrothal between Zhao Duanhua and Luo Chen. The engagement ceremony was grand, but I chose to stay hidden in the princess's residence, indulging in wine. Yet, there were those who conspired against my peace. Li Qingze arrived at my door with Li Cheng'en, Luo Chen, and Zhao Duanhua. They invited me for a drink. Li Qingze coldly remarked, since you moved into the princess's residence, your disposition has grown increasingly eccentric, as if you were eager for others to know the discord between our siblings. Today, with Duanhua and Luo Chen's engagement, everyone has come to offer their blessings, save for you. If you extend your congratulations to Duanhua, I shall refrain from further disturbing you. Henceforth, Luo Chen will be your brother-in-law, and I hope you understand your place. This was no request for blessings. It was a demonstration of power. A warning for me to cease any entanglement with Luo Chen, a means to bolster Zhao Duanhua. I retorted, get lost. What I have discarded is of no concern to anyone else. Do not sully my space. Li Qingze's anger flared. Do you wish to provoke a beating? He raised his hand. Yet, someone swiftly darted in front of me, Xiaowuo. I pushed him aside, defiantly removing the hairpin from my head, confronting Li Qingze without fear. Come on then. A coward who only dares to strike at women. If you lay a finger on me today, I shall ensure our demise together. Tomorrow, I shall create a scene in the Golden Throne Hall and take my own life before our father. Let us see if your position as Crown Prince can withstand that. You are mad. This is utterly unreasonable. Indeed, I had lost my sanity long ago, the day I severed familial ties. I pointed at Li Chengze, shouting, a bunch of scoundrels, leave my sight. The golden hairpin gleamed in the sunlight. Li Qingze, unable to contain his fury, turned to leave. Li Cheng'en spitefully kicked Xiaowuo before they departed. Zhao Duanhua's eyes glistened with tears. Sister, we mean no harm. Luo Chen sighed. Nanjing, you have deeply disappointed me. Get lost. My temples throbbed and my head ached. Once they had left, I took it upon myself to inscribe a large notice. No entry for the Crown Prince and his dogs. Have this paper affixed to the door for all to see. On that day, I penned over 1,000 copies, commanding them to be plastered across the north and south walls of the princess's residence, ensuring that all 4 streets would bear witness. That evening, Li Chengze was chastised by our father. He was punished to apologize and personally remove each page I had posted from my residence's walls. As he peeled them away, I observed him, accompanying him throughout the vast expanse of the princess's residence. When he finished, he coldly glared at me, a mocking smile curling at his lips. Congratulations on earning our father's favor, but do not let it embolden you. I cannot compare to the crown prince's favor, who can still summon our father at night. Unlike me, who has not seen him in 3 months. Li Qingzi scoffed and left in a huff. I returned to the princess's residence feeling elated. Yet an unsettling sensation lingered, as if someone was trailing behind me. I stated coolly, "Show yourself." To my surprise, Xia Wuyo tumbled out from the bushes and knelt quietly at my feet. "What is the matter with you?" I inquired. After a moment of thought, Xia Wuyo replied, "I can only roll like this. I do not know any other way." Green shoots could no longer contain her laughter, whispering in my ear, "Princess, Xia Wuyo has injured his mind. He remembers nothing but his name. Now his mind is not quite right. Whatever others say, he believes." The captain of the guards saw his sturdy build and a bit of martial skill, thus keeping him here as a guard. I fell silent, realizing he was a fool, albeit a handsome one. "Did it hurt when Li Cheng'en kicked you today?" "Yes, it hurt. He bruised me," he responded, hastily unfastening his garment. His bare skin startled me. "How dare you? Get down." He curled up, clutching his head, and rolled away like a top. I could not help but laugh. "Hey, stand up and walk back." Xia Wuyo stood, beaming at me with a radiant smile. Such white teeth. I was momentarily mesmerized. Such pristine teeth, unlike those from a common background. My delight, however, was short-lived, for soon a messenger from my mother's palace arrived. The matron, smiling warmly, conveyed, "The Empress says the princess's previous transcription of the Avatamsaka Sutra was splendid, and she requests you to transcribe the Lotus Sutra for her." I fixed my gaze upon her, and the smile on the matron's face gradually faltered. I stated bluntly, "Is the Empress taking her anger out on me for Li Cheng'zi? Both the palm and the back of the hand are flesh." To the Empress, "The princess and the crown prince are one and the same. It is the way of humanity to transcribe scriptures and pray for one's mother. If the princess is unwilling, I shall report back to her majesty." Huh. I lowered my gaze, a sense of disgust rising within me. "Relay to the Empress that I shall transcribe it. Once completed, I shall personally deliver it to her." The matron withdrew. I tossed the Lotus Sutra aside, feeling a sense of detachment. If I could not finish it, I need not see her. Yet I remained restless. I took green shoots and went hiking. At the steps of Wan'an Temple, someone was climbing the mountain, kneeling with each step. Green shoots explained that this demonstrated sincerity. Such vows before Buddha would be more potent. She then asked, "Princess, do you have any wishes? Speak, and I shall kneel on your behalf, seeking Buddha's blessings." I remained silent. No need. I have nothing to wish for. At that moment, I felt utterly alone, believing I had nothing left in this world. Little did I know that later, I would beseech the heavens and earth for time to reverse, to retrieve all that had been lost. The vegetarian meals at Wan'an Temple were delightful, and I stayed on the mountain for 3 days. Afterward, I took a portion of the meal down the mountain, hastening towards the palace. Upon entering, I encountered a furious Li Cheng'en. He glared at me, seething with anger. "You dare return? Mother has fallen ill because of you, while you neglect her in her palace. You frolic about outside. I have never seen such a disloyal child." I maneuvered past him. "Step aside." His anger peaked as he kicked the vegetarian meal from my hands. The meal box tumbled to the ground, its contents spilling everywhere. My eyes narrowed, and I kicked Li Cheng'en to the ground. I gripped his collar fiercely, coldly stating, "He is my father. What is wrong with me being good to him?" I never anticipated that Li Cheng'en would suddenly draw a hairpin to stab me. I had no time to evade, only able to widen my eyes and retreat. Suddenly, a hand darted in front of me, the hairpin piercing through his palm, blood splattering forth. He clutched the pin tightly, yanking it from his hand before casting it away. It was Xia Wuyo. His face was ashen, blood gushing from his palm. Yet he still pulled me behind him for protection. In that moment, my fury surged. I pushed him aside, frantically kicking Li Cheng'en, each strike venting my pent-up hatred. It was not until several guards shielded him and Xia Wuyo embraced me that I finally lost the strength to continue. I glared at Li Cheng'en, and he returned my gaze, both of us wishing we could feast upon each other's flesh. This incident escalated dramatically. Our father severely punished Li Cheng'zi, confining him to his quarters until he completed the studies assigned by the grand tutor. Meanwhile, my mother exacted her own punishment upon me. I knelt outside her chambers, and she struck me fiercely across the face. For the sake of a mere guard, you dare to assault your own brother? You are becoming increasingly unprincipled. I cupped my face and laughed. It seems that I am becoming more and more like you, mother, protecting outsiders while treating kin as foes. I must surely be your own flesh and blood. I scrutinized her expression, seeking any hint of emotion, but alas, none was to be found. She merely erupted in rage. Wretched child, are you mocking me? I would never dare, mother. I take great pride in resembling you. She pointed at me and bellowed, "Begone. Return to your princess's residence, and from now on, you shall not step foot inside the palace without a decree." I endured the numbness in my knees and slowly exited the queen's quarters. Zhao Duanhua followed me out. Her face, illuminated by the palace lanterns, appeared exceptionally gentle. She chuckled softly, saying, "Sister, you look so disheveled. It truly tugs at my heartstrings. Allow me to escort you out of the palace. I fear you might struggle to open the gates." She dropped the pretense, revealing her claws, boldly proclaiming the queen's favoritism towards her. In a sudden burst of anger, I lifted my foot and delivered a forceful kick to Zhao Duanhua's knee. "One strike is the same as two. What have I to fear?" She gasped and collapsed to the ground. Grasping her face, I growled, "If you dare provoke me again, I shall mar your visage." The sound of rustling garments filled the air as several guards knelt before me, solemnly stating, "Your Highness, please release the county princess." I scrutinized their attire, and a flash of memory struck me. When I had violently confronted Li Cheng'en, several hidden guards had shielded him as well. It dawned on me that mother had bestowed her hidden guards upon Zhao Duanhua and Li Cheng'en, while I, her own daughter, possessed not a single one. My heart chilled to the core, and I coldly released her face, turning on my heel to leave swiftly. At the palace gates, I waited until dawn to finally exit. Outside, Green Shoots awaited me anxiously, and upon seeing me, she rushed forward. I embraced her, unable to suppress my whispered question, "Green Shoots, am I truly Mother's biological child?" She gently patted my back, reassuring me, "You are, indeed, the true princess of Daning. Is that so?" I found it hard to believe. "Then why do they all have hidden guards while I do not?" Green Shoots choked back tears. "Your Highness, you are the best princess. You have us." Suddenly, Xia Wuying knelt on one knee. "Your Highness, from this day forth, I shall be your hidden guard." Xia Wuying truly became my hidden guard. Except when I summoned him to change my dressings, he remained like a shadow, perceptible yet invisible. I questioned him as to why he stood before me. His clear eyes concealed heartfelt sincerity. "It is the duty of a guard." This answer did not quite satisfy me, though I could not articulate why. "If you were Zhao Duanhua's guard, would you protect her as well?" He furrowed his brow. "I shall only serve you, Your Highness." "Why?" "There is no reason. I will only be your guard." His words were resolute. A flicker of secret delight stirred within me, perhaps because I possessed something Zhao Duanhua had never had. In order to placate Zhao Duanhua, Mother had requested Father to grant her the title of princess. Father had yet to reach a decision. Yet the news had already spread beyond the palace. Green Shoots was furious, yet powerless, only able to grit her teeth in frustration. A falsehood remains a falsehood. No matter how one pretends, it cannot compare to the true phoenix. At night, I found myself unable to sleep, wandering the courtyard. Xia Wuying followed silently, treading on my shadow. He thought I was unaware. In a playful mood, I spun around and stepped on his shadow. "I have caught you, do not move." True to his word, he stood completely still. I chuckled and walked away, yet he did not follow. I glanced back at him. He smiled faintly, saying, "Your Highness, you have yet to free my shadow." How foolish. I couldn't help but burst into laughter, and he joined me. In that moment, clarity struck me. I did not wish Zhao Duanhua to have everything go her way. She had already reveled in enough pride. It was time for her to face some sorrow. And I would not bear all the heartache alone. The following day, I rose early and rushed to Wanan Temple, acquiring a portion of vegetarian offerings, hastening my return before lunchtime to personally present them to the palace. The guards at the entrance barred my way. I understood then. It was Mother's command. I turned and waited where the ministers emerged after court. I waited from dawn until dusk. Each day, I arrived early at Wanan Temple for the vegetarian offerings and appeared at the minister's gate. Finally, on the third day, I encountered Father. His gaze was deep and weary, and he sighed heavily. "What is it you wish?" I opened my mouth, intending to utter some flattery. I wanted to tell him how I had seen many people outside Wannon Temple prostrating themselves as they ascended the mountain, all in hopes of receiving blessings from the Buddha. I wanted to express that I was luckier than they, for I could seek blessings from both the Buddha and my father. I also wished to convey that during this time, I had not been happy. It felt as though there was a void within me, one that was growing increasingly tattered. Yet, I could not voice a single word. Tears brimmed in my eyes. I lowered my head, kneeling on the ground, softly stating, "I only wish for you to favor me a little more, for you are all I have left." My forehead pressed against the cold ground, my mind racing with thoughts of whether father would be angry. However, he remained silent. After a long while, he finally spoke, "I understand." As I departed the palace, uncertainty enveloped me regarding my success. I glanced back at the majestic palace with its golden rooftops and azure tiles, feeling its towering grandeur and its immovable nature. Time passed slowly. The imperial decree to grant Zhao Duanhua the title of princess ultimately did not arrive. My heart began to relax, and I found myself pondering whether I was truly favored after all. Meanwhile, father was preoccupied with other matters. The rains had been excessive this year, causing floods in the south, while the north faced a rainy harvest season. My heart was heavy with worry, prompting me to limit my outings. Yet, each day, a flower would appear on my desk. It was picked by Xia Wuying. Green shoots joyfully arranged the flower in a vase, exclaiming, "At least he has a conscience. He remembers that it was the princess who rescued him." However, one day, he returned without a flower, bearing wounds, and tried to conceal them from me. Yet, how could I be oblivious? I could sense that something was amiss. I questioned him about who had harmed him. He bit his lip, refusing to speak. "Speak," I commanded coldly. He shook his head, merely stating, "I will retaliate in due time." He seemed to have grown wiser. No longer the fool who accepted everything at face value. Frustrated, I stormed away. He remained silent. But I could deduce the answer. It was the crown prince who had assaulted him. The incident arose from someone remarking how much Xia Wuying resembled the crown prince in profile. The crown prince, possessing all the grace of a future monarch, had laughed it off at the time. However, afterward, he had sent someone to ambush Xia Wuying as he was out picking flowers at dawn, delivering a brutal beating. Had it not been for Xia Wuying's desperate escape, he might have met a dire fate there. Knowing that the crown prince was behind this, I felt a strange calm wash over me. To retaliate, I needed to strike where it would hurt him most. Therefore, when the crown prince was supposed to travel to distribute disaster relief funds to win the people's favor, he broke out in rashes, unable to bear the wind, and was forced to recuperate in his chambers. This task then fell upon the second prince, Li Qingnian, the son of concubine Wan. Since concubine Wan's death, the second prince had been languishing in obscurity, neglected by father, and now, suddenly entrusted with this mission, he was overwhelmed with emotion, nearly brought to tears, and vowed his loyalty. On the day of his departure, he sat astride his horse, exuding charisma and vitality as he galloped southward. The crown prince was smeared with ointment from head to toe, rampaging through the room in his bare skin and smashing things. He declared that there must be a ghost behind this incident, vowing to investigate thoroughly. Yet, after much probing, the trail led to Zhao Duanhua. He was rendered speechless. Zhao Duanhua wept, claiming her complete ignorance. She had no idea that the pastries contained lychees, nor did she know that the crown prince would break out in rashes after consuming them. This was a secret known solely to Li Qingze and the Empress Dowager. Even Li Qing'an was oblivious. What could Li Qingze do but forgive her? Later, I encountered Zhao Duanhua at the welcome banquet for the return of the second prince. With a smile, she leaned in and whispered, "Sister, the crown prince knows you are the one behind this mischief. He has sent you a grand gift, so please accept it graciously." Shortly thereafter, the Empress Dowager pointed to a gentleman seated among the male guests, saying, "General Song's third son appears quite exceptional, handsome even. Has he been married yet?" General Song was elated and promptly knelt in response. My heart sank. General Song hailed from a family of military generals. Perhaps having heard tales from some wandering sorcerer, he feared that successive generations leading troops might incite the emperor's jealousy, thus splitting his family into two factions. One faction followed General Song to the battlefield to earn military accolades, while the other pursued a scholarly path through the civil service examinations. Song Sanlang, lacking martial prowess from a young age, had no choice but to tread the path of letters. Unfortunately, he excelled neither in academia nor in conduct, embodying the very essence of a debauched scion. The Empress Dowager had once lamented that the troubles of the Song family likely began with Song Sanlang. And now she was praising his handsome visage? How could she speak such falsehoods without fear of divine retribution? However, even more outrageous words followed. The Empress Dowager laughed. My Nanjing has yet to be married. Does General Song have any intentions? A chill washed over me, and I rose to refuse. Just then, Zhao Duanhua let out a soft cry and collapsed into my arms, prompting me to instinctively catch her. She clung to me, smiling weakly. Thank you, sister. I just felt a bit dizzy. The crowd rushed around us, preventing my escape. With her meddling, this matter seemed sealed. General Song knelt in gratitude, and the Empress Dowager nodded with a smile as she departed the table. I glared icily at Zhao Duanhua, loosening my grip and letting her fall to the ground, causing plates and cups to crash down upon her. She was stunned, utterly at a loss, forgetting to cry. Luo Qin and Li Changze strode forward. Without hesitation, Luo Qin removed his outer robe and draped it over Zhao Duanhua, embracing her while glaring at me with fury. Zhao Duanhua was in tears, inconsolable. Li Changze, adopting the demeanor of a crown prince, admonished me. Nanjing apologized to Duanhua. This was the first time Li Changze and I had publicly clashed previously. We had always maintained a united front in the palace, as the Empress Dowager had said, siblings are one, glory and shame are shared. However, ever since the notice was posted on the door declaring crown prince and dogs not to enter, everyone knew of our discord. The onlookers scrutinized me, and I felt the weight of malicious and benevolent gazes alike. I coldly retorted, do not think that this will succeed, even in death. I will not grant you your wish. As the legitimate eldest princess, how can you act so recklessly with life and death? Is marrying into the Song family truly beneath you? Li Changze's expression was one of disappointment, as if I were indeed his dearest kin. How ironic. Your Highness, you orchestrated this marriage. The intentions behind it are clear to all. I am ashamed of you. I stormed away. Upon reaching the inner palace, I was, as usual, stopped at the gates. In that moment, my fervor to confront the Empress Dowager dissipated. I bowed thrice towards Kunning Palace. The first bow for the grace of birth, the second for the nurture of upbringing, and the third for the severance of affection, allowing me to renounce all ties with a clear conscience. Standing upright, I addressed the guards at the entrance coldly. Please convey to the Empress Dowager my congratulations on her satisfaction. From now on, there shall be only Zhao Duanhua as her daughter. I staggered away, yet felt an inexplicable sense of relief. At the palace gates, I encountered Song Sanlang. His corpulent form cowered in a corner, and upon seeing me, he sprang forth, only to be seized by Xia Wuying. Ouch! 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 Your Highness, spare me. I merely wish to speak with you, Song Sanlang exclaimed, tears nearly spilling from his eyes. I found his cowardice tinged with an oddly comical charm. Xia Wuying's brow furrowed tightly. He refused to loosen his grip, applying even more pressure. Song Sanlang's tears truly began to flow. I gestured for Xia Wuying to release him and said coolly, speak. Wiping his tears with his sleeve, Song Sanlang spoke in a timid whisper. I know you look down on me, but I have been living quite well in my debauched ways. I do not wish to bear the weight of a mountain upon my head. I scrutinized him closely. I must admit, influenced by the Empress Dowager, I had always held a prejudice against Song Sanlang, yet now I found him somewhat intriguing. He continued, the will of parents, the words of matchmakers, Your Highness, you cannot resist. Nor can I. Please do not blame me. Instead, let us think of a way to reject this marriage. He was right. However, I could not trust him easily. I inquired, what do you propose? With a self-satisfied smirk, he replied, just await my news, Your Highness. Anxiety brewed within me as I could only bide my time. Not long after, rumors of Song Sanlang's escapades at a brothel surfaced, followed swiftly by news of him being soundly beaten by General Song. Soon, word spread that he had been thrown out of the brothel in the nude. Currently, General Song was escorting Song Sanlang to apologize to the Empress Dowager, and he was sure to receive another beating. Lu Ao, both disdainful and amused, remarked, this Song Sanlang isn't truly bad, it's just that his methods are rather lacking. His self-deprecating antics, believing he was worthless, would only serve to provoke the Empress Dowager's disdain. He had no idea how much she loathed me, wishing nothing more than for me to marry someone she herself detested. After several tribulations, Song Sanlang was left half dead. He sent word to me, saying he could no longer endure the torment and that I must rely on myself. That night, Xia Wuying and I stealthily infiltrated the Song residence. Song Sanlang lay in bed, his face swollen like a pig's head and bruised on his backside, groaning in pain. Upon seeing me, he burst into tears. "Your Highness." Xia Wuying clenched his fists. I frowned, having initially thought General Song was merely putting on a show, but it seemed the matter had turned serious. Yet, at this point, I could only escalate the situation further. The Empress Dowager hastened to expedite my marriage arrangements, soon dispatching palace maids to test the waters. When the palace maid returned from the Song residence and reported truthfully, everyone learned that Song Sanlang was impotent. The Empress Dowager sent wave after wave of imperial physicians to confirm his condition, ultimately verifying that Song Sanlang was indeed incapable. As suspicion turned toward me, she dispatched a matron to the princess's residence, inquiring about my progress on transcribing the Lotus Sutra. I raised an arm and smiled. I shall only transcribe it once my injuries have healed. Is the princess truly injured? The matron questioned skeptically. My gaze turned frosty. It seems that I am fated to be incompatible with Song Sanlang. If he is unwell, I too shall suffer. I must express my gratitude to the Empress Dowager for her matrimonial arrangement. The matron responded, "The Empress Dowager has stated that regardless of your turmoil, this marriage is a done deal and cannot be altered." I smiled. To outsiders, I am still the daughter of the Empress Dowager. If I err, others will blame me. And naturally, they will also hold the Empress Dowager accountable. The Empress Dowager wishes to align herself with the Song family. But does she truly know how General Song feels about her? The matron's expression shifted dramatically, and she hurriedly departed. Song Sanlang quietly asked when I would provide him with the antidote, fearing that if this continued, his beloved courtesan would soon belong to another. I replied, "There is a distinction between being a monk for a moment and being a monk for a lifetime. I trust you can discern the difference." Song Sanlang quietly closed his mouth. After his injuries healed, he spent his days lamenting the sorrowful winds and the melancholic moon, tormenting his father. Each day, when General Song entered the chambers of his concubine, he would wail outside, weeping and howling. Over time, while he remained sane, General Song was on the brink of madness, unable to truly strike down this wretched son. With no other recourse, General Song had no choice but to request an annulment of the betrothal. The Empress, taking the opportunity, facilitated the dissolution of the engagement. This incident imparted to me a profound truth. The suffering of others is but a trifling matter to those in high positions. Only when their own interests are directly threatened do they begin to consider the anguish of others. On the day of the annulment, Li Qingze stormed into the princess's residence. His voice icy. Without the Song family, there will still be the Zhou family, the Zhao family, and the Wang family. Do you think you can escape? I opened the door, replying calmly, "Then tomorrow, the young men of the Zhou, Zhao, and Wang families may find themselves impotent. I hope His Royal Highness can still win their hearts by then." "You dare." I let out a light laugh, revealing my pearly white teeth. "Your Highness, do not engage in reason with a madman." He was taken aback, stepping back repeatedly before sneering, "Then by all means try. Do you think the one you wish to marry would dare to wed you?" He laughed triumphantly as he departed. I fixed my gaze on his retreating figure, hatred gradually swelling within me. He was not wrong. I could wield imperial power to avoid marrying someone I did not wish to wed. Yet he too could wield that same power to ensure I could never marry the one I desired. That night, I sat atop the roof, drinking copiously. After cup, Xia Wuyo gently grasped my wine cup. "Your Highness, you are inebriated." "Huh." I consumed the last of the wine from the jug. "Xia Wuyo, if you were in my position, how would you resolve this predicament?" Frowning in contemplation, he fell silent. When he carried me to bed, his brow remained furrowed, indicating he was genuinely pondering the matter. I turned over and fell into a deep slumber. The following day, he provided me with an answer. "Then choose someone without 9 clans, unafraid of death, and who genuinely cherishes you." Where might I find such a person? Search earnestly, and you shall find one. Xia Wuyo's cheeks flushed, and he soared away. The Empress remained undeterred in her quest to find me a husband, now seemingly aware that I was beyond her control. forcefully attempting to seize the reins of my marriage. Each suitor she selected possessed their own unique traits, yet all were, without exception, ineffectual scions of noble houses. I did not wish to feel sorrow because of her, yet self-doubt crept in. Was it my fault? Had I erred? Should I have never been born of her womb? During the mid-autumn feast, the ruler and his subjects reveled together. The young men chosen by my mother were all present, each as docile as quails. Now, everyone in the capital knew that the Nanjing princess had lost favor, and no one wished to marry me. I too harbored no desire to wed anyone. Fully aware that any union would result in enmity, yet I found myself seated at the same table today. A wave of frustration coiled within me, rendering me breathless. As I lifted my cup to drink, I suddenly sensed something amiss. I gripped the cup tightly, pointing at the maid who had just served me tea, and coldly commanded, "Stop." The Empress frowned, her expression displeased. Ignoring her, I swiftly grasped the maid's shoulder as she feigned ignorance and attempted to leave, forcing the tea into her mouth. The Empress erupted in anger. "Nanjing, what manners are these?" Manners. In the past, it was precisely my excessive decorum that allowed others to bully me to this extent. Mother, what are you so anxious about? Are you afraid of her reaction to the tea? Absurd. What have you become? What have I become, mother? I fixed my gaze upon her, a wave of sorrow washing over me. I now resembled a madwoman, a castaway, entirely unlike the proud and confidently Nanjing of yore. The Empress's bright eyes narrowed, her brows betraying her disdain. Meanwhile, the maid trembled, confusion and desire swirling in her eyes. Her complexion flushed as she tugged at her garments. Caught in a tug-of-war between dignity and lust. This scene left the onlookers in shock. Those with discerning eyes quickly understood what had transpired with the maid. That cup of tea was originally meant for me. The maid was swiftly dragged away. An unprecedented calm settled within me as I awaited the Empress's explanation. The Empress opened her mouth, but ultimately her face darkened. This palace will thoroughly investigate this matter. Anyone who commits such vile acts within the palace will face my relentless scrutiny. Huh, I scoffed, appending the table and turning to leave. The Empress bellowed in fury, "Li Nanjing." I paid her no heed. I could not trust her. I had to seek justice for myself. Thus, at the prince's banquet, where numerous scholars were gathered, the prince drank heartily, stumbling as he was assisted inside to change. At that moment, I, disguised as a man, ignited a string of firecrackers from my sleeve and tossed them to the ground. The cacophony of firecrackers startled everyone, prompting a mass exodus as many sought refuge indoors, while a multitude of guards rushed into the prince's chamber to protect him, with Luochen leading the charge. Inside, sounds of a struggle between a man and a woman could be heard. "Prince brother, do not. Duanhua, be good." On that day, everyone learned that a woman was hidden in the prince's chamber. That woman was none other than the prince's cousin, Zhao Duanhua. The two were caught in a tangle, nearly succumbing to an illicit act. Luochen let out a furious roar, having discovered the prince's dishonor, and swiftly separated the two, wrapping Zhao Duanhua in his garments while fixing a gaze full of hatred upon the dazed prince. I observed the scene with cold indifference, letting out a derisive laugh as I made my way to the palace, kneeling at the entrance of my father's quarters. I was the one responsible for this incident. It would be easy to trace back to me. Aware that I could not evade the consequences, I came to accept my punishment willingly. It was not long before the prince, seething with rage, arrived. As he passed by me, he viciously kicked me repeatedly. "Wretched woman, I knew it was you. Why did you betray me?" I seized his ankle, causing him to lose his balance and fall to the ground, yet he continued to kick me viciously. We engaged in a scuffle reminiscent of our childhood. Ultimately, palace maids and eunuchs pulled us apart, but we still lunged at each other, our animosity palpable enough to wish for each other's demise. What had become of our once harmonious sibling bond? My father erupted in fury, demanding to know what had transpired. I too wished to understand how we had devolved to this point. In our youth, when palace maids slighted me, Li Chengza would defend me, replacing the maids and personally teaching me the ways of governing subordinates, imparting the wisdom of balancing kindness and authority. In return, I cared for him, worried for him, pleading on his behalf when he was reprimanded by our father, offering him ideas when he struggled with the Grand Tutor's questions, even throwing stones at the Grand Tutor's head when he was scolded. How had we ended up like this? Li Chengza roared, "I have no sister like you." With a resounding slap, My father struck him across the face. He bore no resentment towards our father, only glaring at me with unbridled hatred, until, after a long pause, shame flickered across his features. Father, I was wrong. I should have cherished my siblings. Even when they err, I should have patiently guided them instead of resorting to violence. This response was impeccable. He lowered his head submissively, oblivious to the profound disappointment etched upon our father's face. Your words may sound sincere, but your heart is not. You have navigated your path too easily. When faced with minor setbacks, you resort to violence. As the crown prince, you must learn the way of a ruler. I never wish to hear such words from you again. Now, step inside and tell me where you have erred. Li Qingze obediently followed my father into the study, while I remained kneeling, ignored by all. After a long while, Li Qingze emerged with reddened eyes. As he passed by me, he let out a cold snort, saying, "You should be grateful that you share the same mother as I do, otherwise, humph." I raised my gaze and met his with a calm demeanor. How mistaken he was. This was perhaps my greatest misfortune. After he left, Father Emperor summoned me inside, his brow furrowed with fatigue. "You have made me partial towards you. And this is how you repay me? The crown prince is your elder brother, the heir apparent. You have acted in defiance, employing such despicable means. Do you acknowledge your wrongdoing?" My fervent hopes instantly turned to ice. After waiting so long, this was the outcome I received. What more could I possibly expect? I lifted my gaze, my eyes devoid of emotion. "Father Emperor, I do not comprehend where I have erred. Should one who is wronged merely wait passively for their demise? When they retaliate, is it treachery worthy of death? If this world operates in such a manner, then it is indeed the world that is at fault. If this world cannot accommodate me, then you may slay me, allowing me to repay my parents for their nurturing." I closed my eyes, lifted my chin, and awaited death. Father Emperor's fury ignited. "Are you threatening me?" "Father Emperor, when I was young, you taught me that if one does not offend me, I shall not offend them. If they offend me, I shall undoubtedly seek retribution." "That principle applies to enemies, not to kin," Father Emperor interrupted. I fell silent. When kin turn cruel, they can be more terrifying than foes. After all, enemies cannot approach me so closely. Father Emperor declared, "I will grant you 1 month to find a suitable husband. If you cannot, you shall accept your mother's arrangements." I bowed in response, leaving in a daze. Father Emperor added from behind, "On that day, do not blame your mother." He was justifying her actions. But what difference does it make? The greatest support for Li Qingze is indeed the Empress, without her backing. Would he and Zhao Duanhua dare to act so brazenly? The matters concerning the crown prince and Zhao Duanhua were suppressed. However, in such a small capital, the whispers of the court spread far and wide. The crown prince secluded himself in the eastern palace, biding his time. Zhao Duanhua wept daily, confined to her home, now haunted by the mere thought of visiting the lavatory, too frightened to go alone. Meanwhile, Luo Chen had fallen out with the crown prince and had not visited the eastern palace to accompany him for many days. One day, spurred by some unknown provocation, he stormed into the princess' residence in a frenzy, smashing many items. Pointing at me, he exclaimed, "I never expected you to be so heartless and venomous. To have known you for 16 years is my greatest shame. If there is a next life, I would rather never meet you." My heart remained as still as water, and I indifferently commanded my servants not to intervene, allowing him to wreak havoc. Once he had finished, I instructed my servants to gather the debris into a cart and present a list detailing the costs, totaling several thousand taels of silver. I simply ordered my servants that if the Xiang residents did not compensate, I would make this matter known to all and take it to the Ministry of Justice. The Luo family hesitated, requesting a few days' grace. 3 days later, the Xiang residents ostentatiously delivered the silver to the princess residence, parading it with great fanfare, attracting a multitude of onlookers. The Luo family intended to amplify the spectacle, hoping to showcase my avarice. Without hesitation, I accepted the sum, dividing it into 3 portions, one for the Infants' Welfare Institute to care for abandoned children, one for the General Relief Hospital to assist the sick and elderly, and the final portion for the Huimin Pharmacy to aid those unable to afford medicine and healthcare. Upon the distribution of these funds, the populace erupted in cries of "Long live the princess!" The Xiang family departed in a state of utter dejection. Upon returning, Luo Chen faced a severe beating. Defiantly, he claimed no wrongdoing, but after leaving home, He sought solace in drink, only to be ambushed on his way back, receiving a thorough thrashing while being covered with a sack. It was said he was beaten quite severely and would need to lay in bed for 10 days or so. The Xiong residence was bustling with doctors throughout the night, and even Zhao Duanhua ceased her pretensions, rushing to the Xiong residence to inquire after him. Upon hearing of this, I pondered deeply. I recalled Xia Wuying's reddened hands and the injuries on his knuckles. He must have struck with considerable force. After all, that vile person has tough skin. So his hands must have ached greatly. I ordered some ointment for him. He paused for a moment, then flushed. Does your highness not blame me? Blame you for being too protective of your master? If you do not protect your master, then you are no longer my shadow guard. However, do you desire to assume another identity? Xia Wuying's eyes darkened, and he knelt on one knee, hastily replying, Your Highness, I do not wish for freedom. My breath caught for a moment. Did he think I intended to release him? How could that be? Then do not regret it, Xia Wuying. I shall not. I will never regret. During this period, I found an unprecedented sense of tranquility within myself. I realized I was one who repaid grievances with vengeance. Those who bullied me would find themselves unfortunate, and that truly brought me joy. Yet what delighted me even more were the expressions of gratitude from the Infants Welfare Institute, General Relief Hospital, and Huimin Pharmacy. The childish doodles, the incoherent letters of thanks, and the praises from the healers filled the void within my heart, making it whole again. I discovered that outside the palace's entanglements, I had many other meaningful endeavors to pursue, showing compassion for the poor and the elderly, caring for the welfare of the people. Beyond the confines of my chamber, there seemed to be a vast expanse of opportunities. As the largest benefactor of the Infants Welfare Institute, General Relief Hospital, and Huimin Pharmacy, I frequently visited these places alongside Xia Wuying. The people there did not seek high positions or wealth. They only desired clothing to cover their bodies, food to fill their bellies, medicine for their ailments, care for the elderly, and protection for the young. At that moment, I finally understood the principles articulated in books. Those who govern must prioritize the welfare of the people as their foundation and establish righteous scholarship as their base. The harmony of the world depends on the prosperity of the people. The peace of the world relies on the joy of the people. The flourishing of the world is contingent upon the righteousness of the people. If the people are not prosperous, the nation cannot be prosperous. If the people are not joyful, the nation cannot be secure. If the moral conduct of the people is not upright, the nation cannot thrive. Those phrases that once seemed obscure suddenly became clear revelations to me. For several consecutive days, I maintained a fixed schedule, rising early and returning late, making my rounds at the Infants Welfare Institute, General Relief Hospital, and Huimin Pharmacy. As a result, when I encountered an assassin on the road, I remained entirely unperturbed. Not only was I calm, but I also confidently commanded my guards to counterattack the assassin. Meanwhile, Xia Wuying caught Li Cheng'en, who had been lurking nearby, red-handed. Li Cheng'en panicked. You vile wretch, let me go. Smack. I delivered a resounding slap without hesitation. You dare to strike me. Not only did I strike him, but I also intended to drag him back to the capital in disgrace. I stuffed him into a sack and dragged him through the streets, declaring to all that I had captured an assassin. The crowd buzzed with chatter, condemning the would-be assassin. Li Cheng'en clamped his mouth shut, terrified that a single word would reveal his identity. Once we entered the palace, I sought an audience with Father Emperor. I knelt before him, softly stating, Father Emperor, I have found a suitable husband. I beseech you to grant me this marriage. Father Emperor appeared somewhat relieved, smiling as he asked, Oh, which young master have you chosen? I gently tugged at Xia Wuying beside me and said, I have chosen him. I implore Father Emperor to support our union. The smile faded from Father Emperor's face. You are the illustrious first daughter of the imperial family, a legitimate princess. How could you marry a mere guard? For a fleeting moment, I was bewildered. His tone was grave, as though I were a precious jewel, yet it was they who had cast me aside like a worn-out shoe over the years. I had no desire to persuade Father Emperor. Today, I had come to negotiate. I softly replied, On my way back to the city today, I was attacked. The assassin is here. I asked Father Emperor to deliver justice for me. I clapped my hands, and the sack was opened, revealing Li Cheng'en's terrified face. Father Emperor glanced between me and the now nearly weeping Li Cheng'en, his expression darkening. You truly attempted to assassinate your royal sister? I merely wanted to teach her a lesson. With a resounding thud, the imperial staff struck the ground heavily. Li Cheng'en fell silent, trembling as he knelt. Father Emperor sighed deeply, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. Perhaps even the emperor himself cannot convince himself that his children can coexist harmoniously. He raised his hand, gesturing for me to leave. I waited outside the door, and soon I received the imperial decree regarding my betrothal to Xia Wuyo. From within, I could hear Li Cheng'en's anguished cries. Father, I was wrong. I truly regret my actions. I shall never dare again. On my way out of the palace, I encountered the hurriedly approaching empress. She struck me across the face, her tears flowing fervently. In that moment, a desire for revenge ignited within me. Your Majesty, do you know why I was able to capture Li Cheng'en? It is because I understood his nature. Once he breaks free from restraint, he would never let me go. There is a saying, a thief may act for 1,000 days, yet a victim can only guard against them for so long. Thus, I deliberately ventured outside the city every day to lure him in, and to my surprise, he was foolish enough to fall for it. What should I say, Your Majesty? He has inherited none of your sharp intellect. He may be inept, but he is still your brother. How dare you speak so? He himself declared that his sister is Zhao Duanhua. Perhaps you should take the time to teach him, so he doesn't allow himself to be used by others. This time, fortune smiled upon me, but next time, luck may not be on my side. I made a gesture as if to cut my throat and turned to leave. After walking quite some distance, I finally lost my strength and stumbled. Xia Wuyo steadied me, resting his chin gently atop my head. Your Highness, if you wish to cry, then let it out. Tears streamed down, soaking his garments. It felt as though I had triumphed, yet the dread within me whispered that I had lost utterly. Familial bonds with my parents and siblings would likely have no bearing on my life henceforth. Li Cheng'en had scarcely been released when he was once again placed under house arrest. My marriage to Xia Wuyo was confirmed. Yet the Ministry of Rites showed little interest in the preparations, and I did not take it to heart. I was marrying the man I desired. A person without a clan, unafraid of death, and who harbored affection for me. In that moment, I was profoundly grateful to the heavens for sending such a person into my life. Xia Wuyo, indifferent to the pomp and circumstance, took me on daily excursions around the city. Thus, I came to understand that the scenery of late autumn was indeed breathtaking, vast mountains and rivers bathed in golden hues, a vibrant contrast of red and yellow amidst decay. However, the fruits of the harvest faced a dire market. As winter approached, the sky was shrouded in clouds, and the chill of impending snow lingered, revealing the disparities in wealth among the populace. The more I observed, the more I realized the myriad responsibilities that lay in governing a nation. These thoughts had never crossed my mind while confined within the palace walls, where all I had seen were luxury and opulence, obscuring the hardships that lay hidden in the corners of the capital. I attempted to curtail the expenditures of the princess's household, directing the savings toward tangible endeavors. As for the wedding list presented by the Ministry of Rites, I endeavored to convert it into silver. Some claimed I was obsessed with money, yet I had never felt so at peace internally. The day of my wedding arrived as scheduled, and in comparison to any previous royal weddings, mine could only be described as modest. However, the throngs of well-wishers, blessed children, the elderly, and the ailing numbered in the thousands. Each guest arrived without the expectation of monetary gifts, but rather with red envelopes in hand. The people celebrated together, a joy that others lacked. Upon hearing of these events, the Empress chastised me for my actions, while Li Chengze accused me of trying to curry favor with the populace. Zhao Duanhua, feeling wronged, lamented what would happen when other princesses married. Would they too be expected to act thus? Only the emperor sent a personal inscription, "Rejoice with the people." I framed the words and hung them at the entrance of the princess's residence, where they became a sight to behold in the capital. Many newly arrived scholars came to pay their respects, seeking the blessings of the heavens. With the marriage settled, I was no longer subject to others' whims, and my spirits soared. Apart from occasional visits to the palace for festivals, I felt unencumbered. Conversely, I encountered Luo Chen several times. He seemed distracted, as though struck by a great blow. I heard that since the incident involving Zhao Duanhua and the crown prince, he could no longer face the latter calmly, resigning from his position in the Eastern Palace and developing a rift with Zhao Duanhua. Even when she humbled herself to please him, he remained brooding, and I even caught sight of him drowning his sorrows in a tavern. Murmuring Zhao Duanhua's name with a heart full of longing. Xia Wuyo scoffed lightly, his disdain evident. I would never indulge in such frivolities. If one truly cherishes another, one must exercise self-restraint, instead of indulging in debauchery under the guise of love. Each time he drinks excessively, others will say Zhao Duanhua has wronged him. What a position he places her in. I nodded in agreement. Fear not, I shall not allow anyone to encroach upon my bed. Xia Wuyo appeared taken aback, as if he had just realized that a princess could indeed have a consort. A sense of urgency seemed to wash over him. In the ensuing days, my waist remained unwell until he coaxed me into promising, in this life, there shall be only him. Not long after, the unrest in Fuzhou was finally quelled, and the court honored Zhao Duanhua's father, proclaiming him a paragon among officials, while her mother was elevated to the rank of first-class noblewoman. Zhao Duanhua received a fief, and her status soared, making her the envy of noble women throughout the capital, with invitations pouring in. She and Luochen took this opportunity to rekindle their romance, reveling in each other's company, until one day, they rushed to the princess's residence, bringing with them a bloodied Xia Wuyo. Zhao Duanhua was beside herself with tears. Sister, I truly did not mean it. I had no idea that my careless arrow would strike my brother-in-law. I deserve punishment. Please, sister, punish me. She knelt, slapping her own face repeatedly. Luochen, filled with concern, pulled Zhao Duanhua behind him protectively. It is my fault. I should not have taught you archery. Your Highness, if you must blame someone, let it be me. However, I must clarify that at the time of the shooting, none of us knew the prince was there. Slap. Slap. I struck Luochen across the face. Step aside. If anyone hinders my husband's treatment, I will kill him to avenge my husband. At last, the room fell silent. I grasped Xia Wuyo's hand desperately, calling out his name and pressing down on his wounds. He blinked, his voice strained as he uttered my name. Nanping. I am here. I am here, you will be safe. The physician tended to him inside, while I forced Zhao Duanhua and Luochen to kneel outside. Luochen refused. With a kick to his knee, he was subdued by the guards and brought to the ground. His face flushed with indignation, he declared resolutely, if I am guilty, let the Jingzhou prefecture judge me, not the princess acting in private. I lashed out at him with a whip. Now you wish to speak of the law? When you shattered my belongings, where was your concern for the law? When you abused your power for personal gain, where was your regard for the law? A lowly person only remembers what benefits themselves. He looked at me incredulously, perhaps finally comprehending that my feelings for him had vanished. Nanping. I keep a close watch on him. If anything happens to my husband, I will kill him to avenge my husband. The imperial physician shook his head, stating that whether Xia Wuyo would awaken was in the hands of fate. In that moment, it felt as though the heavens had collapsed around me. How could I accept such fate? I refused to submit to the will of heaven. I glared hatefully at Zhao Duanhua. Ever since her arrival in the capital, everything had changed. She had taken my parents, my siblings, my betrothed, and now she sought to make me a widow at such a young age. How wicked she was. I despised her. I wished for her to vanish from this world at once. Zhao Duanhua was terrified. Sister, I am already kneeling. I truly did not mean it. If I die, my brother-in-law will awaken. I would rather it be me who perishes. Sob, sob, sob. Then go die. With a heart filled with the desire to ruin her, I lashed out at her face. Zhao Duanhua, terrified, sought refuge beside Luochen, who caught the whip with his hand, instantly bleeding profusely. In a hoarse voice, he said, Your Highness, is this enough? How could it be enough? Even 10 deaths would not suffice. I glared at Zhao Duanhua, coldly declaring, Go plead with Physician Yang. If he does not come, I will ensure you accompany him to the grave. Physician Yang is a doctor from the Huimin Pharmacy, also the master of the chief of the Imperial Medical Institute. He is dedicated to alleviating the suffering of the masses and thus refuses to serve in the palace, abhorring the oppression of the powerful. Even I cannot guarantee that I can persuade him to treat the patient. For every time I visit Huimin Pharmacy, he merely nods at me and ignores me thereafter. Zhao Duanhua went to Huimin Pharmacy, tearfully recounting the events while concealing her act of shooting the prince consort. But who is Physician Yang? He furrowed his brows and directly asked, Who injured the prince consort? Zhao Duanhua, weeping, refused to answer, only bowing her head in fervent pleas for him to save the man, lest I kill her. The crowd grew larger. Physician Yang's expression darkened, his mood soured. I understood his plight. He was caught between the moral high ground Zhao Duanhua imposed on him and his disdain for the oppression of the powerful. Torn between his medical compassion and ethical dilemmas. I empathized with him. Many times I have felt similarly, unable to voice my thoughts. Yet, Physician Yang, evidently more composed than I, quietly instructed his apprentice before fixing his gaze on Zhao Duanhua. He coldly remarked, "What have I done to be so coerced by the princess? I merely wish to ascertain the facts to avoid being manipulated by ill-intentioned individuals. Yet the princess evades the crux of the matter, refusing to answer my questions. Only weeping incessantly. Perhaps your tears might be of use to others, but to me, accustomed to life and death, they are futile." I ask again. "Who shot the prince consort?" Zhao Duanhua's face flushed, tears streaming down her cheeks, appearing pitiful. However, the apprentice rushed in from afar, exclaiming loudly, "Master, I have found out that it was the princess who shot the prince consort, and she did so intentionally, aiming for his heart." Zhao Duanhua gasped in shock. "I did not mean to. It was an unintentional mistake." Physician Yang's face grew cold. In my lifetime, I have despised those who feign innocence and lack accountability. The princess caused a calamity yet blames others for wanting to kill her. With such character, I cannot associate closely with you, princess. Please leave. But the prince consort will die. Zhao Duanhua appeared genuinely concerned for Xia Wuyo. Physician Yang chuckled dryly. Isn't that precisely what the princess desires? In a day's time. Everyone knew that Zhao Duanhua wished to kill Xia Wuyo, to bring my prince consort to his demise. Some whispered that Zhao Duanhua was jealous of the affection between the prince consort and me, deliberately scheming against us. Others suggested that ever since Zhao Duanhua's arrival, my circumstances had worsened day by day, indicating that the princess's jealousy was indeed genuine. I listened to the gossip circulating in the streets, relieved that there were discerning eyes that saw the truth. That evening, Physician Yang visited the princess's residence under the moonlight. He repeatedly apologized for his tardiness. I felt gratitude within me. In truth, he had not arrived late at all. The first thing his apprentice did upon reaching the princess's residence was inquire about the details of the imperial physician's diagnosis. Upon learning that the chief of the Imperial Medical Institute had personally examined the case, he felt reassured and instructed the apprentice to bring the specially prepared ointment. After using the medicine, Xia Wuyo's condition had already improved significantly. He remained at the pharmacy to keep Zhao Duanhua at bay, avenging me. I bowed to him. My throat choked with emotion. He hurried to assist me up and went inside to check Xia Wuyo's pulse. For several consecutive days, he maintained a cold demeanor towards Zhao Duanhua during the day, only returning at night to attend to Xia Wuyo, comforting me to remain at ease. During this time, he faced pressure from both the Empress and the Crown Prince, yet remained unyielding. Even when Li Chengze threatened to destroy his pharmacy, he merely bowed and said, "Your Highness, I wish you a life free of illness and worry." Li Chengze was rendered speechless. In a world abundant with quack doctors, true healers are rare. He could not assure himself of never falling ill, ultimately leaving in frustration. With such treatment from Physician Yang, how could I falter? I filed a lawsuit against Zhao Duanhua and Luo Chan at the Jingzhou Prefecture. They imprisoned Luo Chen but dared not do anything to Zhao Duanhua, merely passing the case to the Dali Temple, which then forwarded it to the Zhongrenfu. No one dared to judge this case. But I was indifferent. What I wanted was for everyone to know, Zhao Duanhua and Luo Chen publicly shot the prince consort, attempting to end his life. The Empress summoned me to the palace, but I declined, citing illness from worry. The minister's residents sent gifts of apology, and before them, I distributed everything, telling everyone that as long as the prince consort could awaken, I would reciprocate with the same amount in the future, as countless people prayed for his quick recovery. Finally, I awaited the emperor's decree. In the imperial study were Zhao Duanhua, Li Chengze, and Luo Chan. The emperor looked at me, his eyes devoid of tenderness, only weariness. To him, I was likely a burdensome hassle. I too felt exhausted. I could not fathom why I merely wished to live honestly and peacefully, yet trouble persistently found me. If I did not resist, I would be trampled into the mud. If I did resist, it seemed I was at fault as well. The emperor asked me how to proceed from here. To kill is to repay life, to owe is to repay debt. I beseech your majesty to handle this matter justly. I knelt on the ground, my voice icy. Li Qingze interjected, "Your Majesty, I believe this matter requires further deliberation. Sister Duanhua did not act intentionally, and her crime does not warrant death. Furthermore, the prince consort is not beyond awakening. I ask your Majesty to reconsider." Zhao Duanhua wept, "I am willing to die. I only ask that my sister does not hate me. I shot the arrow in the wilderness, unaware that my brother-in-law would be there. It was truly unintentional. I implore my uncle to execute me. I shall pay for my brother-in-law's life." The emperor lowered his gaze, ultimately reaching a conclusion. Zhao Duanhua was confined for 3 months, and Luo Qin received 30 lashes. My heart felt like stagnant water. Zhao Duanhua had won, and so thoroughly. As I departed, the emperor informed me that Zhao Duanhua's parents had perished at the hands of bandits and had contributed to the court, thus she could not be executed. I lowered my gaze, my voice barely above a whisper. "Has your Majesty considered that it is precisely because of this that she dared to shoot the prince consort?" The emperor fell silent. It was an unintentional mistake. Huh. I turned away, tears streaming down my face. "Your Majesty, you do not allow me to blame the empress, the crown prince, or Li Qing'an. Now you also do not let me blame Zhao Duanhua. Who then should I blame? Should I blame myself for being born into a royal family? Nanping. Your Majesty, please forgive me. Nanping has been reckless today. I blame no one but myself for being unfortunate and unable to bear the emperor's grace." I never returned to the palace again. Xia Wuyo awakened half a month later. He said he had experienced a long, surreal dream, so vivid that he could not distinguish reality from illusion. He also mentioned that he had not wandered into the wilderness by choice, but had been drugged and left there, just as he began to awaken. An arrow had been shot at him. I gently embraced him, feelings of hatred intertwined with shame enveloping me. I could no longer seek vengeance for Xia Wuyo. This matter had settled, and to stir up more waves would be ungrateful. Yet, one day, I left the capital, taking Xia Wuyo to the outskirts to recuperate. I remained there until spring blossomed, and Xia Wuyo's health had greatly improved. He too seemed to have no desire to mention the events of the capital. We tacitly maintained silence about it, living like affluent farmers, tilling the land and planting vegetables. I learned to distinguish various grains and understood that spring-planted leeks could be harvested multiple times until September. Chickens laid eggs, ducks paddled in the water, and even the geese could outmatch dogs. As the days passed, we remained oblivious to the affairs of the capital. Occasionally, Xia Wuyo and I would find ourselves atop the roof, sipping wine, and we would simultaneously cast our gazes towards the direction of the Forbidden City. One day, he inquired, "If I were to take up an official position and attain great power, would I be able to right the wrongs?" After pondering for a moment, I shook my head and replied, "As long as you remain my consort, that day of great power will forever elude you. Neither my father nor the crown prince would allow it. Do you regret becoming my consort?" He paused, holding me tightly in his embrace, and declared, "Never. I have vowed to never regret it." In the blink of an eye, it was May, and the peonies at Wannan Temple were in full, resplendent bloom. I, lacking the patience for mountain climbing, remained behind as he ascended alone, claiming he would gather a few peony branches and bring back a portion of vegetarian offerings. However, he vanished without a trace. When I finally discovered him, he lay lifeless, a victim of countless stabs, discarded down a cliff, his body shattered and insides ruptured. Xia Wuyo, orphaned and solitary, left me with no leads to his origins despite my extensive inquiries. I yearned to inform his friends and family, only to find that no one knew whom to tell. I was left with no choice but to mend his broken body with my own hands and lay him to rest. On the day of his funeral, throngs of citizens gathered spontaneously to pay their respects, laying bouquets upon his coffin. The vibrant flowers remained, yet my dear friend had vanished in an instant. For 3 months, I secluded myself, avoiding all company, lost in contemplation, trying to comprehend how I had played my pieces so dreadfully. During this time, the capital was rife with occurrences. First, there were whispers of hauntings at the cliffs of Wannan Temple. It was said that mournful cries for justice echoed from below, yet when one dared to look, nothing was visible. Next, tales of the crown prince breaking out in rashes after consuming lychees spread like wildfire, igniting his wrath and drawing disapproval even from my father. After all, a deeply flawed heir was a source of great concern. Meanwhile, the second prince, Li Qingmian, was entrusted with the significant task of pacifying the populace in Fuzhou to stabilize their loyalty. The third piece of news was a scandal involving a woman who boldly halted Zhao Duanhua's carriage, claiming to be pregnant with Luo Chen's child and beseeching Zhao Duanhua for mercy, offering to serve as a maid, merely to be with Luo Chen. This incident turned Zhao Duanhua into a figure of ridicule, particularly given that she had only been married for 3 months. Yet, all these events were ultimately overshadowed by another rumor. Within the palace, it was whispered that I was not the queen's daughter, but rather a false princess, with the true princess having been swapped long ago. The tales circulated with such conviction, depicting the malevolent Wan Guifei who, in a nefarious scheme, had smuggled a pregnant woman into the palace, seizing the moment of the queen's delivery to exchange her child with the true princess. A perfect scheme that not only endangered my own position, but also placed the second prince in jeopardy. I could only surmise that he must have felt far more anxious than I did, while I had the means to verify my identity within the capital. He was en route to Fuzhou, unable to return for clarification. Even if he successfully completed his task, who could predict the outcome upon his return? Upon entering the palace, I did not seek my mother but approached my father instead. Kneeling before him, I implored him to ascertain the truth of my identity. It was likely the first time he had encountered such rumors, and in a fit of anger, he retorted, "Absurd. Do you think it is so simple to swap children in the palace?" He refused to investigate, seemingly out of trust for the queen, leaving me deeply disappointed. Did he not consider that the very source of this rumor might be the queen herself? It served to divert attention from the crown prince's issues, spare Zhao Duanhua from ridicule, and tarnish the reputation of the second prince, Li Qingnian. I was merely a pawn in her calculated game. As rumors swirled, my existence became increasingly burdensome. Even my pilgrimage to honor Xiaowuyo was met with judgmental glances. Yet, there were those who wished me well. Outside the gates of the princess's residence, gifts of vegetables and fruits arrived, accompanied by letters of encouragement from scholars and various medicinal herbs intended for my health. I entered the palace without shedding a tear, nor did I weep while honoring Xiaowuyo. It was only in the presence of these gestures that I succumbed to tears. Green Acacia embraced me, wiping away my sorrow. "Princess, what is true, it cannot be fabricated. Heaven is watching over you, you need not worry." 3 days later, the mid-autumn family banquet approached. However, this year, I received no invitation to the palace. Zhao Duanhua specifically came to invite me, and upon hearing this, I was taken aback and stifled a laugh. "Could it be true? Is it that you truly are not born of our aunt?" She scrutinized me closely, adding, "How strange. There is not a single resemblance." Leaning closer, in a whisper meant only for our ears, she remarked, "Sister, do not blame our aunt. After all, you truly are not her offspring. A wild seed has replaced the child born of our aunt. How could it be deemed unfair?" Thus, the trials I faced seemed to acquire a semblance of justification. But my mother could have told me that this position as princess was not something I needed to covet. The mid-autumn banquet was fraught with discord. My father departed in a huff, while my mother's eyes brimmed with sorrow. The crown prince stormed into the princess's residence, whip in hand, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "It is all your fault, you wild child. Your mother conspired with Wan Guifei to exchange my sister. How dare you linger in the princess's residence? Destroy it." A host of guards surged in like wolves, wreaking havoc and destruction. I ordered my servants not to intervene, prioritizing my own safety. Li Chengze swung his whip at me, but Green Acacia shielded me, enduring the blow in my stead. As he prepared for another strike, I seized the whip, using the momentum to send him sprawling to the ground. I looked down upon him. "Today, you must either slay me or be rendered incapable of rising again. Crown Prince, have you forgotten that your literary talents pale in comparison to mine? You cannot best me in combat. Beyond your noble birth, you are utterly devoid of merit. Your disdain for me, was it born from my lack of kinship or from a deeper jealousy of my accomplishments as a woman?" Li Qingze hesitated to kill me. Attacking the princess's residence could be framed as filial piety, but should he truly take my life, such brutality would jeopardize his claim to the throne. He left with a venomous remark, retreating with his entourage. Green Acacia relaxed, trembling, and tearfully asked, "Your Highness, what shall you do from here on?" I felt the warmth of blood on her back, and my heart ached. "Do you truly believe I am not my mother's child?" She dared not respond. I sighed. How could I possibly not be my mother's daughter? Even if it were not the case, I would ensure it became so. Not long after the Mid-Autumn Festival, a more dire message arrived. The steward from my estate on the outskirts of the city came to inform me that Li Cheng'en had dispatched individuals to collect rent, claiming that the princess was no longer a princess and thus had no right to collect rent on the fiefs bestowed by the court. He inquired if this was true, fearing that if Li Cheng'en collected rent and I did the same, they would be unable to pay. I instructed him, follow their lead, avoid conflict. I will find a way to resolve this matter. The steward was troubled. But he collects more than you, we still wish to cultivate for you. I nodded, aware that Li Cheng'en harbored animosity towards me and would not treat these tenants kindly. I instructed Green Acacia to bring some money to him. Let us endure this year. By next year at the latest, I shall reclaim my position as your mistress. The steward sighed deeply and bowed to me, saying, Your Highness, please ensure your survival. The farmers are counting on you. Before I knew it, early winter arrived, and on the day it snowed, my father summoned me to the palace. We walked through the snow-laden imperial garden. My father reminisced, when you were little, I would accompany you to build snowmen here. You were just a tiny thing back then. I said, I have built 5 snowmen, one representing the emperor, one the empress, one my elder brother the crown prince, one my younger brother Cheng'en, and the last one myself. I declared that our family of 5 would remain together forever. The emperor, moved by my words, began to neglect Lady Wan. That year, Lady Wan harbored a deep-seated hatred towards me, often uttering sharp remarks whenever we crossed paths. Subsequently, I fell ill. Upon awakening, I discovered that Lady Wan had been relegated to the cold palace. The emperor remarked, I have always believed you to be my daughter, but certain matters. Father. Listen, there is a sound, I interrupted, understanding that he merely wished to investigate my origins. However, if such words were to escape his lips, they might initially evoke guilt within him, but over time, that guilt would transform into a burden, and eventually, all his love would turn to disdain. Therefore, it was best that doubts not be voiced by him. There is someone drowning, I stated, as I swiftly ran toward the lake, leaping into the water before several palace maids and eunuchs could react, rescuing a drowning young maid. By the time I dragged her to the shore, I was utterly exhausted and fainted shortly thereafter. Upon regaining consciousness, I found myself in the warmth of a palace chamber, and the sounds of my mother's voice reached my ears. How is this possible? How could she bear a birthmark? This is inconceivable. Your Highness, I saw it clearly. The birthmark is discreet, located at the base of her thigh. It is not easily noticeable unless closely examined. Perhaps you are mistaken. How could I be mistaken? Lady Wan clearly told me before her death that she had swapped my child. I gave birth to a son who bore a crescent-shaped mark at the thigh, and she replaced him with a daughter. I had a son. The anguish in my mother's voice was heart-wrenching. Ridiculous. The emperor bellowed in anger. How can you trust the words of that madwoman? She harbored malice against you, wishing for a rift between mother and daughter, deliberately provoking you, and yet you believed her. Treating Nanping so poorly. You shame yourself as a mother. My mother paused momentarily, emitting a low sob. I felt a sense of calm within me and allowed myself to drift back into slumber. Yet, the winter chill from the water had taken its toll, and I was burning with fever. After a while, someone touched my forehead, applying a cold cloth to reduce my temperature. I could sense it. Though I was enveloped in a haze, unable to open my eyes, I began to mutter incoherently. Mother, Lady Wan cursed me as the spawn of a lowly woman. So I struck and kicked her. It was not my intention to be disrespectful. Mother, I am in such pain. Lady Wan's grasp hurt me terribly. Thank you for your concern, Ah Yang, but what should I do if Mother resents me? My mother's sobs reached my ears as she chastised the imperial physician. Why is she still burning with fever? A bunch of incompetent fools. What use are you to me? She was frantic, beginning to resemble a true mother. Alas, I no longer cared. The next day, I finally opened my eyes, feeling groggy, as if I were enveloped in clouds and mist. Nanping, how are you? My mother exclaimed with joy, tears streaming down her cheeks. Mother, am I dreaming? Mother. I wept profusely as she embraced me, weeping uncontrollably. I recuperated in my mother's cunning palace. She showered me with concern, and Zhao Duanhua visited several times, yet struggled to capture her attention. One day, Zhao Duanhua arrived in tears. Aunt, Luochen has deceived me. That woman named Yunya came again, holding a child, and Luochen did not send her away. As she spoke animatedly, I emerged from behind the curtain and softly said, "Mother, I wish to return to the princess's residence." My mother immediately dismissed Zhao Duanhua, saying, "You are still unwell. You must recover before you can leave." I glanced at Zhao Duanhua, coughed a few times, and feebly said, "Mother, I wish to go." My mother seemed to understand something, a wave of sorrow washing over her gaze. Nodding, I bowed to her and slowly departed. Zhao Duanhua called out to me, "Sister, do you blame me? But matters of the heart are the hardest to control. As long as you can forgive me, I am willing to do anything." I replied gently, "Then promise me one thing, reconcile with Luo Chen. Now that you have what you have long desired, cherish it well, at least your nobleman is still here, while mine is no longer." I turned away, covering my face. Behind me, I heard my mother reprimanding Zhao Duanhua. "Enough. Luo Chen merely has a concubine. As the principal wife, you must be magnanimous. It is not uncommon for men to have multiple wives. Even I am not exempt from this. What right do you have to demand a lifetime of fidelity?" That day marked the first time Zhao Duanhua left Cunning Palace in tears. I believed that such occurrences would repeat, and indeed, they did. I did not know who advised Zhao Duanhua, but she welcomed the woman named Yunya into the residence, placing her under her very nose, thinking she could manipulate her. Yet, she was mistaken. Yunya was wealthy. In this world, money could indeed move mountains. Yunya lived comfortably in the back courtyard of the residence, and before long, she had enticed Luo Chen back into her bed. Zhao Duanhua sat in silence all night, unable to comprehend the situation. She could not understand why, despite sending someone to hunt down Yunya, she still lived and thrived, even giving birth to a child. She also failed to grasp how a courtesan could possess such wealth that even the matron of the residence treated her with a smile. During the days of blooming wax plums, Yunya and I sat face to face in a Zen chamber at Wanan Temple. Green Acacia cheerfully presented her with a stack of silver notes. She graciously accepted them, smilingly thanking me. I inquired about her life in the residence, and she scoffed. "I am merely waiting for the princess to rescue me once more. For now, I survive solely for the sake of my son, enduring the presence of that scoundrel." In those days, Yunya was the top courtesan. The affair between the crown prince and Zhao Duanhua had left him seething with rage. Unable to vent his frustrations on the crown prince or Zhao Duanhua, he lashed out at those weaker than himself. At that time, Yunya was still a pure courtesan, selling her talents, but not her body. After being rejected by her, Luo Chen, in a fit of shame and anger, forced himself upon her. The madam heard Yunya's cries, but, intimidated by the power of the scion, dared not intervene. Afterward, he tossed her a stack of silver notes, coldly stating, "How dare a lowly whore act so proud? I could snuff out your life with a mere flick of my finger." Later, during disputes with Zhao Duanhua, she became the outlet for Luo Chen's pent-up rage. A fragile, dependent courtesan occupied the lowest rung of society, with no one to speak up for her. Eventually, Luo Chen decided to marry and told her he could no longer visit. She loathed him. She could have continued as her own courtesan, saving money to redeem herself when age and beauty faded, perhaps finding a life as an embroiderer. But now, Luo Chen had defiled her and abandoned her. Without his protection, she was left to entertain one man after another. He had ruined her yet expected her not to resent him. Surely, he was delusional. In her final act of defiance, she refused to drink the contraceptive potion and became pregnant. She escaped from the brothel, intercepting Zhao Duanhua's carriage, hoping to seek a way out. Little did she know, Zhao Duanhua was even more ruthless than Luo Chen. Luo Chen merely wished to sever ties, while Zhao Duanhua sought her life. When my people arrived to rescue her, she was thrown into a dilapidated temple, her swollen belly protected by a few beggar women, who were bloodied from a beating by thugs. Yun Yang chuckled. During my time as a courtesan, I often dreamed of encountering a talented and handsome benefactor who would rescue me from such sordid surroundings. Yet, as I awaited and hoped, no such figure ever materialized. They belittled and degraded me while simultaneously lusting after my body. Truly, their faces bore the semblance of humanity, yet their hearts were those of beasts. Their words insincere. As a man, one is expected to cultivate both literary and martial skills, ultimately serving the imperial family. Yet, what of me? My intellect rivals that of those esteemed young men, yet I am relegated to serving others with my beauty. They can recite utter nonsense. and I must strain to concoct compliments which make me feel utterly nauseated. How can this world be so unjust to women? Indeed, how can this world be so unjust to women? She bore new scars upon her body, some inflicted by Luochen, others by Zhao Duanhua. I inquired if she could continue to endure such a life. She smiled, tilting her face up. Of course I can endure. The intrigues within the inner chambers are far easier to navigate than the entanglements of the flower houses. I must strive to secure a promising future for my son. What Luochen owes me may be beyond my reach, but my son must claim it. Then await my news. We gently clasped hands and exchanged a knowing smile. At the New Year's banquet, Li Chengze gazed at me, hesitating to speak. I intentionally stepped away from the festivities to take a solitary stroll in a secluded area. Both Li Chengze and Li Cheng'en called out to me. Nanping. Sister. I turned to face them, my expression calm. Li Chengze inhaled deeply. Nanping, I apologize. I was wrong in the past. I believed you were not born of the Empress, harboring resentment towards you, which led me to target you unfairly. I do not seek your forgiveness, nor do I expect you to treat me as before. I only wish for your safety and health. I promise you. For all that has transpired, I shall make amends. His face was alight with fervor as he looked at me. Though he claimed he did not seek my understanding, his expression betrayed a desperate plea for my forgiveness, as if he wished to relieve himself of guilt. I had long seen through his facade. In our youth, he would offer me the slightest kindness, expecting eternal gratitude in return, hoping I would remember it for life and never oppose him. He treated me well but resented my happiness, which is why, after the Grand Tutor praised me, he sulked for days, refusing to attend lessons. When he learned from the Empress that I might not be her biological child, he promptly sought to suppress me. I lowered my gaze and wept, tears falling drop by drop onto the ground. Li Chengze panicked, Nanping. Your Highness, I cannot forget what you have done to me. For Zhao Duanhua, you denied me as your sister. In your eyes, she is your true sister. What am I? No, we are of the same mother. Zhao Duanhua is merely the daughter of my aunt. By blood, we are much closer. My kindness to her is only because she is alone and destitute. Elder brother. A sorrowful feminine voice emerged from the shadows. Zhao Duanhua looked at the crown prince in disbelief, her eyes quickly brimming with tears. She covered her mouth with her hand and retreated step by step before turning and fleeing. Li Chengze, startled, briefly lost his composure, quickly instructing me, Nanping. You should return now, as he hurried after Zhao Duanhua. Li Cheng'en, anxious, stamped his foot. Li Nanping, look at the trouble you've caused. Now both the crown prince and sister are upset. What did you call me? I replied coolly. Li Cheng'en shrank back, seemingly realizing he had come to mend our relationship. Yet moments ago he had scolded me while addressing Zhao Duanhua as sister. I scoffed and turned to leave. Li Cheng'en called after me, Why must you be so petty? I merely reacted without thinking. I halted. Are you not coming along? Huh? Where to? Where else could we go? Naturally, to the Xiangfu. We four must reconcile. I do not wish for the Empress to be distressed. She is caught in the middle of our sibling disputes. Li Cheng'en joyfully linked his arm with mine. Yes. Let us hurry. In that moment, I felt as if I had returned to my childhood. A time before Zhao Duanhua's arrival when the Empress still believed I was her own. Li Cheng'en would affectionately cling to my arm, always playfully seeking my favor. It was only later, after the Crown Prince reminded him of the differences between genders and the Grand Tutor punished him for his studies, that he began to find me bothersome. With Li Cheng'en leading the way, we swiftly arrived at the Xiangfu. He entered as if it were his own home, bypassing formalities, and boldly made his way to Zhao Duanhua's courtyard. Midway, he suddenly halted, his eyes wide in disbelief as he rubbed them. Following his gaze, I beheld the Crown Prince entangled with Zhao Duanhua beneath the moonlit bamboo grove, their cries muffled into whimpers. Li Cheng'en, frantic as if he were the guilty party, quickly pulled me away. Hurry, let us pretend we saw nothing. Too late. Flames ignited, illuminating the scene, revealing a furious Luochen. This time, Luochen did not hold back and struck the Crown Prince squarely in the face. I waited for him to land a few blows before rushing forward. Kicking Luochen aside, and together with Li Cheng'en, we pulled Li Chengze and Zhao Duanhua to flee. That night, I was oblivious to how others fared. I, however, slept soundly, experiencing a rare moment of peace since Xia Wuyo's passing. In the days that followed, Zhao Duanhua remained in a state of anxiety, hiding within the palace. She desperately explained that she was heartbroken, that the crown prince merely sought to comfort her, and that nothing untoward had occurred. Yet, the empress struck her sharply. Fool! Today, the students of Minister Luo have reported the crown prince repeatedly due to you. Because of your actions, the crown prince has been tainted. And Minister Luo has turned against me. Do you still dare claim you did nothing? Zhao Duanhua shielded her face, stunned. And, had it not been for Li Nanfeng's machinations, how could Luochen have suspected me? How could the crown prince and I have been misinterpreted? She deflected blame, placing me at the forefront. I slowly knelt, speaking softly. If the empress wishes to lay blame, let it be upon me. Each time I clashed with Sister Duanhua, the crown prince always defended her. I too wished for his protection just once, and after that mid-autumn incident, I misjudged the situation, leading to this great mistake. I beseeched the empress to punish me. The empress, recalling something belatedly, shot Zhao Duanhua a fierce glare. Return to your xiangfu. From now on, without a summons, you are forbidden from entering the palace, and may never step foot in the Eastern Palace. Zhao Duanhua's eyes widened, disbelief etched across her face. Aunt, do you not believe me either? If my father and mother were here, they would trust me. She wept as she fled. The empress, filled with sympathy, made to follow. I gently grasped her sleeve. Mother, let sister have some time alone. She is currently in turmoil and will not heed any words. Speaking further may only incite more discord after all. Her parents sacrificed for the nation and are esteemed officials. It is only right to afford her some leniency. The empress took several deep breaths, striving to suppress her anger. Yet her grip on the teacup was fierce and unwavering. Zhao Duanhua remained in the palace, unwilling to yield to Luochen, leading to a stalemate. Meanwhile, the crown prince, overwhelmed, found himself daily in the imperial study, enduring chastisements from the emperor, turning crimson with shame, leaving him no time to concern himself with her. At this juncture, Yun Yang discovered she was with child. Luochen elevated Yun Yang to the status of a favored concubine. Zhao Duanhua could no longer remain idle. She hastily returned to the xiangfu, intent on halting this unfolding drama. Yet, Luochen, unyielding, disregarded her pleas, whether soft or tearful, resolutely intent on punishing Zhao Duanhua for her perceived disloyalty. If you are aggrieved, you may call upon your crown prince brother to deal with me. Luochen. My relationship with the crown prince is pure, do not slander us. Oh, is it a purity that is interdependent? Luochen scoffed. Zhao Duanhua, unable to contain her fury any longer, raised her hand to deliver a resounding slap to Luochen. In that very moment, Yun Yang rushed forward, intercepting the blow, only to stagger sideways and collapse onto the ground, crimson blood oozing from between her legs. Zhao Duanhua was momentarily stunned until Luochen struck her face, bringing her back to her senses. If anything happens to Yun Yang, I shall not let you off lightly. Once cherished lovers had now become bitter adversaries. I found myself seated upon the rooftop, drinking cup after cup, unable to restrain my sorrow. I finally comprehended the profound loneliness encapsulated in the phrase raise a glass to invite the bright moon, and with my shadow, we become three. Xia Wuyo. If you know of my plight from beyond the grave, how fare you? I shall seek to avenge you, piece by piece. You must watch over me. Yun Yang recuperated for 3 months. During this period, Luochen truly cradled her in his palm. When I encountered her at the tailor's shop, her cheeks glowed with health, and she appeared to be thriving. She smiled and remarked, I've nearly lost my appetite from all the tonics. If I were to truly lose the child, I'd have overindulged in remedies, especially since it's merely a false pregnancy. However, I take great pleasure in Zhao Duanhua's humiliation. Zhao Duanhua and Luochen had completely severed ties, each ignoring the other. After the Empress Dowager withdrew her support for Zhao Duanhua, her days in the minister's residence grew increasingly arduous. The wife of the minister harbored a deep-seated hatred for Zhao Duanhua, who had brought disgrace upon her son. Unable to confront the crown prince directly, she devised various means to torment Zhao Duanhua instead. Meanwhile, the crown prince's situation in the court became ever more precarious. Previously bolstered by the chancellor's support, he had navigated affairs with ease, but now he faced numerous obstacles. Little did they know, even greater misfortunes loomed on the horizon. After half a year, the second prince returned to the capital from Fuzhou under the veil of secrecy. Upon his arrival, he wept bitterly before the emperor. "Father, I almost could not return to see you." From his attendant, the emperor learned that the second prince had encountered multiple assassination attempts during his journey to and from Fuzhou, ultimately having to disguise himself as a merchant to evade danger. This experience led him to uncover the truth behind the civil unrest in Fuzhou. There were no bandits or rioters, only the unfortunate people driven to desperation. During the tenure of the former governor, Zhao Duanhua's father had wielded his power oppressively, extorting the populace to the point of desperation, forcing them into rebellion. Subsequently, when the court dispatched troops to quell the uprising, Zhao Duanhua's father killed innocent civilians, masquerading them as bandits, and unlawfully conscripted laborers to mine, leading to countless casualties. When the number of prisoners proved insufficient, he began to seize commoners over trivial offenses, sentencing them to labor in the mines for minor transgressions that could have been resolved with a fine. Many families were shattered as a result. The uprising in Fuzhou saw the citizens rise against Zhao Duanhua's father, who was slain, yet they paid with their lives, only to be suppressed by the court as rebels. Conversely, Zhao Duanhua's parents were lauded and celebrated. The new governor, aware of Zhao Duanhua's status as a princess and her protection from the empress and the crown prince, chose to perpetuate the miscarriage of justice. When the second prince spoke of the people's suffering, he was overcome with tears. "Father, I understand that my words may cast aspersions upon the empress and the crown prince, as well as upon Princess Duanhua, yet the people are suffering immensely. The taxes in Fuzhou remain double that of elsewhere, and families are selling their children to survive. I cannot bear it any longer. I implore you, father, to save the people of Fuzhou." The emperor's face darkened as he swiftly issued several imperial edicts. Under the pretense of seeking the second prince, he dispatched individuals to Fuzhou to conduct investigations, with one team operating overtly and another covertly. A month later, a pile of memorials, towering as high as a person, lay upon the emperor's desk, detailing the grievances and atrocities suffered by the people of Fuzhou. The wealth amassed was not solely the doing of Zhao Duanhua's father. A considerable portion had been given as tributes to the empress and the crown prince. On that day, the emperor slammed his palm upon the table, only to stagger, nearly collapsing. Grand eunuch Shi hurried to support him to a couch. The emperor halted Shi from summoning the empress, his expression one of bewilderment as he questioned, "Did the crown prince truly orchestrate all this?" Grand eunuch Shi found himself at a loss for words. At that moment, the crown prince announced he wished to present a gift to the emperor. The gift was a grand statue of Buddha, towering 3 meters high, seated upon a lofty lotus pedestal resembling the emperor's visage, gazing compassionately upon the rushing waters below. Such a statue cost an exorbitant sum. The crown prince respectfully declared, "Father, you have been laboring tirelessly of late, and I have been deeply concerned. Thus, I commissioned the statue, hoping for your long-lasting health and the eternal stability of our realm." The emperor scoffed coldly. "Long-lasting health? Eternal stability? Yes, indeed." The crown prince hesitated, sensing something amiss. The emperor's anger finally erupted as he seized a ruler and hurled it at the crown prince. "With a son like you, how could I expect long-lasting health? How could the realm remain stable?" The crown prince was placed under house arrest. The empress was confined to the palace. Meanwhile, Zhao Duanhua was summoned for questioning at the Ministry of Rights, where she was meticulously interrogated about the situation in Fuzhou. Zhao Duanhua sensed that matters were dire. If she claimed ignorance, there might be a glimmer of hope, but if she confessed to her knowledge, it would be tantamount to signing her own death warrant. Gritting her teeth, she resolved not to acknowledge any awareness of the events, even if they resorted to torture. I visited her in the dungeon, where the once exalted noblewoman now resembled a lost dog. I quietly observed her demeanor. She finally ceased pretending to be asleep, opened her eyes, and glared at me with venomous hatred. "Have you come to gloat at my misfortune? Indeed, did you truly believe that becoming a princess would grant you unbridled freedom? A falsehood is a falsehood, and no matter how one might attempt to conceal it, the truth will inevitably reveal itself. If not for your mother's machinations, how could my parents have?" She spat angrily, only to realize her slip and promptly seal her lips, directing only a furious glare towards me. I replied, "Your parents deserve their fates. One was a corrupt official, the other a ruthless woman. What right did they have to enjoy the honors bestowed by the court? Their deaths were warranted, not for my mother or the crown prince. My mother and the crown prince were entirely unaware of your family's sordid affairs. Their only error was placing their trust in you treacherous relatives, believing you to be law-abiding citizens serving the court. Zhao Duanhua, you shall pay for the deeds you have committed, but, considering our familial ties, once you emerge from prison, the crown prince will welcome you into his household. Thus, you may live your life there in peace. It appeared Zhao Duanhua finally grasped the gravity of her situation. Even if she clenched her teeth in denial, the crown prince and the empress would not let her go. They would not permit her to continue living in this world. Her days of luxurious living were irrevocably over. After I departed, she remained in a daze for quite some time. When the sound of the cell door echoed once more, she could not help but shudder and cried out, "I have something to say. I wish to see the presiding judge. Allow me to see the presiding judge." Zhao Duanhua dealt a devastating blow to the empress and the crown prince. When she journeyed from Fuzhou to the capital, she had cleverly safeguarded herself by leaving a loyal servant along with correspondence between the empress, the crown prince, and her father in a village 50 miles from the capital. That village happened to be within my fief. The servant lived comfortably in my village. It was only because Zhao Duanhua had inquired during her travels that she learned the empress had given birth to 2 sons and a daughter, that the crown prince was wise and discerning, displaying the qualities of a future ruler, and that the third prince was lively and charming, a true gem among men. As for the eldest princess, she was known for her kindness and gentleness, embodying the essence of virtue. Zhao Duanhua believed that those who were praised by the masses could not be inherently wicked. Hence, she left the servant there. However, upon meeting me in the capital, she was consumed by a fervent jealousy, envious of my reputed benevolence, kindness, and the affection of my parents, my elder brother's protection, my younger brother's respect, and my fiancé's noble lineage. In contrast, she felt burdened by her own sordid heritage. She lamented the injustice of the world. If she could replace me, would she not also attain the happiness I possessed? Zhao Duanhua's confession, along with the correspondence exchanged, inflicted a profound blow upon the emperor, compelling him to confront the disheartening truth. The beloved wife and the crown prince he had cherished for years harbored an entirely different visage. Their hearts, devoid of compassion, were avaricious beyond measure. For their own selfish gains, they enslaved the populace, treating the citizens of an entire province as mere chattel. Could such individuals be entrusted with the realm? Would they show benevolence towards the common folk? After 3 days of turmoil, the emperor issued the decree to depose the crown prince, while the empress was confined to her quarters, forbidden to venture out without a summons. Li Cheng'en and I, too, found ourselves entangled in this web of consequence. I was confined to the princess's residence, while Li Cheng'en was bestowed with a title of nobility, dispatched to a meager fief that scarcely matched his status. Tearfully, he journeyed to his domain, only to encounter the imperial forces engaged in suppressing bandits. Upon capture, these mountain marauders, upon seeing Li Cheng'en, prostrated themselves before him, pleading for their lives. The bandit leader proclaimed, "We had a pact that as long as we targeted those from Fuzhou, our safety would be assured, yet here we are, facing the imperial forces." Li Cheng'en vehemently denied such claims. The leader insisted with unwavering certainty, "The prince consort rescued by the Nanjing princess hails from Fuzhou. While you may deny the involvement of others, can you truly refute the prince consort himself? I possess evidence to prove it." Rendered speechless, Li Cheng'en was swiftly escorted back to the capital by the general leading the crackdown. This time, the emperor's disappointment was absolute. He thundered, "Investigate. I demand a thorough inquiry. I wish to discern what further secrets they have concealed from me." When the sovereign's wrath is roused, countless lives may be lost. Under the emperor's relentless scrutiny, truths that I had previously labored to unearth were laid bare before me. In that early spring, as the seasons turned, the people of Fuzhou found themselves in dire straits, rising in rebellion or fleeing from their homeland. Yet, a group of over 100 individuals, comprising men, women, and children, journeyed from Fuzhou to the capital, driven by genuine concern for the populace, to present their grievances to the emperor. Despite facing relentless pursuit along their arduous journey, only one among them, Xia Wuyo, managed to reach the capital alive. Just as he believed victory was within reach, Fate dealt him a cruel blow as he fell prey to bandits lurking near the outskirts of the city. Fortuitously, I rescued him. Upon regaining consciousness, however, he found himself afflicted with amnesia. I soon realized that the reason for my inability to uncover his identity lay in the fact that the Empress and the Crown Prince had long since obliterated all traces of his existence. It became clear to me that the assassination attempts directed at me were, in truth, aimed at eliminating Xiao Wuyo. Oblivious to this truth, the amnesiac Xiao Wuyo remained unaware. As did I, caught in the midst of the capital's tumult. Thus, my visit to Wan'an Temple was destined to culminate in a tragic fate. The conspirators behind his assassination included the Empress, the Crown Prince, Zhao Duanhua, and Luo Chen, who had orchestrated this deadly plot, patiently awaiting Xiao Wuyo's solitary outing. Yet, I had naively believed that distancing myself from the capital would shield me from impending disaster. The Emperor summoned me to the palace, his gaze laden with compassion as he regarded me. We shared a silent meal together. After dining, the Emperor spoke. "You have endured much suffering over the years. Rest assured, I shall select a worthy consort for you. This time, you may choose whomever you wish." "Whomever I wish." I pondered, contemplating whether it would be possible to resurrect the deceased Xiao Wuyo. Not all affections can be so easily replaced. Nevertheless, I humbly replied, "Thank you, Your Majesty. I shall take some time to consider." The Emperor nodded and returned to matters of state. With the Empress and Crown Prince deposed, and Li Chang'an stripped of his title, Luo Chen and Zhao Duanhua were exiled, while I, the princess, remained unscathed, receiving a grant of 800 fiefs, making me the most favored princess in history. On the day of their exile, Luo Chen and Zhao Duanhua were shackled, driven from the city step by step. The Luo family, fearful of association, refrained from bidding them farewell. I stood at the city gate, a flicker of satisfaction igniting within me as I beheld their plight. Luo Chen's countenance was one of distress, as he bowed his head, urging the guards to hasten their departure. The guards coldly reprimanded him to cease his futile commands. In contrast, Zhao Duanhua's eyes blazed with hatred. "Li Nanjing, what victory is yours? You remain a widow cursed with misfortune, and, even in death, Xiao Wuyo called your name. His demise was truly tragic." I seized Zhao Duanhua by the chin, compelling her to speak. I ordered my men to grasp her tongue and forcibly extract it, subsequently severing it with scissors. Her tongue split, resembling a serpent's forked tongue, and blood gushed forth as she shrieked in agony, thrashing her head in despair. Releasing her, I gazed upon her wretched state, my satisfaction growing ever so slightly. Leaning close, I whispered in her ear, "Do you understand why I spare you? For only by living can you atone for your sins. Moreover, allow me to enlighten you. Yunyao was saved by me, and I provided her with the means to win hearts. The reason you and the Crown Prince shared such a passionate kiss is that the fragrances of your sachets combined to create an aphrodisiac." She whimpered, her eyes filled with venomous hatred as she lunged at me, consumed by an urge to rend my flesh. In response, I deftly severed her tendons. Henceforth, she would be unable to speak or write, likely to find herself in a position to sincerely atone during her exile. Before Luo Chen, I merely uttered, "Yunyao was forfeit abortifacients by Zhao Duanhua, resulting in a stillborn child." Luo Chen descended into madness. "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. That child resembled me. Do not slander Yunyao. Among the 100 infants at the nursery, how could any not resemble you? Furthermore, let me share another revelation. Yunyao's second pregnancy was a ruse. I could never bear for her to truly suffer a miscarriage. That was merely a blood bubble I prepared, waiting for the perfect moment to burst when you and Zhao Duanhua clashed. You venomous woman. You deceive me. It cannot be true." Luo Chen lunged at me in a fit of rage, only to be sent flying by my guard's swift kick, curling into a fetal position, beads of sweat erupting upon his brow. I chuckled. "Then take your time to depart, perhaps linger for a few days in the outskirts, and listen for news from the capital." Suddenly, Luo Chen's eyes widened in terror as he grasped the implications. It was then that he seemed to recognize his missteps and attempted to plead for mercy. Yet, my guard swiftly silenced him, plunging a knife into his mouth and slicing off half his tongue, while simultaneously severing his tendons. I observed in silence, remarking, "After all, you were once a couple. In fortune and misfortune, you are bound together. Do you not resemble a pair of celestial mismatches?" Luo Qin and Zhao Duanhua were settled in the outskirts of the capital to recuperate, and once healed, they would continue their journey. During this interval, Yunyao struck the drum of petition, enduring 30 lashes before accusing Prime Minister Luo of corruption and manipulation of the imperial examinations. She presented compelling evidence, with but one request, to leave the Luo family with her child and live as an ordinary citizen. The emperor, incensed once more, ordered a thorough investigation. Another political earthquake was imminent. News of this reached the outskirts, where Luo Qin, driven to madness, began to batter his head against the wall until blood flowed freely. He incoherently cried, "Nanjing, I was wrong. Spare me. I should not have strayed. I should not have killed the prince consort." The guards, alarmed by his audacity in implicating the princess, hastily silenced him and sent him off to the desolate borderlands. A month later, Prime Minister Luo was sentenced to immediate execution. His former associates, each preoccupied with their own survival, hastened to sever ties with him. The Luo estate was seized, and the once prestigious matron of the estate embarked on the path of exile. In stark contrast to each other, she and Luo Qin, one heading south, the other north, would never meet again in this lifetime. Yunyao, cradling her child, came to bid me farewell. At that moment, her face radiated genuine warmth, tenderly playing with her son. "Thank you, Your Highness, for your rescue. I shall forever remember your kindness. However, I fear I may not be able to repay your grace. I can only cherish it in my heart and strive to be a good person, never bringing shame upon the princess." Her composure was admirable. Had I remained a princess indefinitely, I would have no need for her salvation. Should I find myself in dire straits, it is likely that I would have reached a point of no return, beyond her ability to rescue me. With a smile, I presented her with a box containing silver notes and jewels, saying, "If Du Shinyang possesses a treasure chest, then he Yunyang ought to have one too. May you henceforth act according to your heart's desires, and may all your wishes be fulfilled." Her eyes glistened with tears as she knelt with the child in her arms. "Your Highness, I seek nothing of the sort." "Take it," I insisted. "As the head of a sewing house, you must have capital. Your child will need an education as they grow." She accepted the treasure box and removed the longevity pendant from the child's neck. "Your Highness, I ask for nothing but your peace and health, a long life without equal. I shall pray for you in Jiang'an." I nodded, watching her depart. Another old acquaintance from this capital was gone. On my return home, I detoured to the place where the crown prince was imprisoned. The guards, upon seeing me, hurried to pay their respects. I inquired about the crown prince's condition. The guard replied, "The crown prince has been clamoring all day, hoping you would come to his rescue. He begs your majesty to show leniency." "Your Highness, would you like to enter?" I shook my head. The time was not yet ripe. Li Chengze still harbored delusions, clinging to the hope that if he merely admitted his faults, the emperor would allow him to go free. But I would ensure he understood the depths of his impending disappointment. Only then would he realize that I was his sole hope. "Tell the crown prince that I shall endeavor to rescue him. He must take care of himself and not lose heart." "Yes," the guard replied respectfully. As I turned to leave, I overheard him say to another, "Princess Nanbing is truly a kind-hearted person." I could not help but chuckle. Such praise was misplaced. The former Princess Nanbing may have been virtuous, but that version of me had long since perished. What remained was merely a vengeful specter. I visited the grave of Xia Wuing to burn paper offerings. The joss paper fluttered in the air, refusing to descend. Rising, I murmured, "You refuse to accept these offerings because the vengeance has yet to be fully avenged? Fear not, it will soon be over. Everything is drawing to a close." In a tea house, I encountered the second prince, Li Qingyan, who greeted me with joyful reverence. "Thank you, imperial sister, for your guidance. Without it, I might not have returned alive from Fuzhou." He placed a hand over his heart, still shaken from the ordeal. Before his departure to Fuzhou, I had forewarned him of the treacherous journey ahead, advising him to split his forces into three, one by water, one by land, and the third disguised with attendants for covert reconnaissance. He had believed the latter to be the most perilous, only to realize after surviving an assassination attempt that being visible was the true threat. In the ensuing chaos, he changed into a servant's attire and fled, aided by the commerce of the princess's household, successfully reaching Fuzhou. The trials of that journey were not to be underestimated. Yet, upon arriving in Fuzhou, This fool relaxed his guard, naively trusting others, nearly falling victim to being sold into servitude. Only my vigilance saved him. When rescued, he asked, "Why are there so many men in Fuzhou indulging in such debauchery?" Having witnessed the turmoil of Fuzhou, the common people sought only survival, while the aristocracy grew ever more depraved. Such realities were unknown to a prince reared in the comforts of the Forbidden City. The return journey was fraught with even greater hardships. This arduous passage revealed to me that the man before me was utterly inept. Yet, due to his princely lineage, he had become the most favorable candidate for the crown prince. I could not reconcile this. With such a person in power, how many more Fuzhous might arise? Did the emperor truly remain unaware? I quipped, "It was but a trivial effort on my part, yet you have avenged me greatly." The second prince's expression turned grave. "Imperial sister, please do not mourn. My brother-in-law risked his life for the people of Fuzhou, and they shall not forget his kindness. The emperor has already decreed to restore his honor. You will see this soon. If so, that would be splendid. In the future, should you require my assistance, do not hesitate to ask. I shall endeavor wholeheartedly. Actually, there is something now, if it is convenient for you, imperial sister." "What is it? Pray do tell." "I should take a wife. I wish to marry General Chen's daughter, Chen Jinxiu, as my principal consort. I wonder if the emperor would consent." The second prince's eyes sparkled with excitement. I could not suppress a laugh. Indeed, once one obtains power, the desire for more power stirs within. The second prince was no exception, nor was I. I nodded. "That can certainly be arranged. I once shared an acquaintance with General Chen's daughter. Though she hails from a family of warriors, her heart truly yearns for a man of literary talent. If you wish to win her heart, why not begin with poetry?" "I understand. Thank you for your guidance, imperial sister." The second prince hurried off. I arranged to meet Chen Jinxiu and recounted today's events as if they were a jest. Chen Jinxiu replied proudly, "All men are like this. Do they truly believe that winning a woman's heart is akin to acquiring an object? That they can simply win and lose us at will?" She spoke wisely. Yet, as I gently patted her back, she flinched in pain. General Chen favored sons over daughters. Whenever his son erred, he would punish his daughter to teach his son a lesson. This I could not comprehend. Whoever erred should be punished, not the sister for the brother's misdeeds. Have you been struck again? Your tongue is too sharp. Were I in your place, I would acquiesce to the second prince, in time. You could avenge grievances and settle scores. But I do not like him, Chen Jinxiu replied, her face paling. She remained as pure as water, unlike my heart, which had darkened. I smiled. The path from betrothal to marriage for a prince can be swift, 6 months at best, 2 to 3 years at worst. In such a lengthy span, anything could transpire, wouldn't you agree? What kind of changes might occur? Chen Jinxiu's gaze fixed on me intently. I whispered in her ear. What if you were to become a noble widow? Her eyes brightened. She hooked her finger with mine. It's settled then. Do not deceive me. Though I may lack in poetic finesse, you, princess, cannot best me. She was so proud, much like my Xia Wuing once was. I chuckled. Indeed, I cannot best you, General Chen. Her smile was radiant, filling me with nostalgia. My Xia Wuing had once boasted similarly, yet he was no longer here. Later, the second prince sought out the general's residence to find Chen Jinxiu, only to stumble upon the woman he adored being beaten by her father. This sight left him stunned for quite some time. He immediately intervened, thus winning Chen Jinxiu's affection. Observing this, General Chen acknowledged his mistakes and engaged the second prince in friendly conversation over drinks, finding common ground. Chen Jinxiu completed her mission, feeling a weight lifted from her shoulders. She pledged her life to the second prince. He believed he had saved her and treated her with utmost care. That very day, she returned home and gave her troublesome brother a thorough beating, declaring proudly before General Chen, "Father, you always say I am of no use. Perhaps it is through my daughter that we may connect with the royal family, not through my brother. One day, should I become the second prince's consort, I shall bear a dragon's heir, bringing glory to you and my son. My brother's misdeeds only hinder the second prince. If you wish for me to ascend to such heights, you must properly discipline him." General Chen, enraged, retorted, "Absurd. Were I not a general, would the second prince even glance your way?" Chen Jinxiu laughed. "Father, you underestimate the power of persuasion. Do you truly believe your position as general will remain unshakable? Look at the fate of the Luo family. Just then, a voice from outside announced the arrival of the owner of the treasure shop. Miss Chin, someone has sent a necklace for you to consider. If it does not suit, I can return it and have it altered. The jewelry was magnificent. The jade of vibrant green, utterly astonishing General Chin. He finally fell silent, repeatedly urging Qin Jinxiu to try on the exquisite necklace. Later, Qin Jinxiu playfully said to the second prince, Your Highness, I must thank you for saving me once more, otherwise, my father would have surely punished me severely. The second prince felt a wave of anxiety wash over him, for that priceless necklace was not a gift from him. He realized that he appeared to have a wealthy rival and, to avoid any complications, promptly sought a decree from the emperor. The emperor regarded him for an extended period, long enough for beads of sweat to form on his brow. Ultimately, the emperor consented. With a heart full of joy, he returned to share the good news with Qin Jinxiu, unaware that this very act would cost him the position of crown prince. In recent days, ministers and officials had inundated the emperor with petitions to appoint the second prince as crown prince. The emperor was troubled. He felt the second prince was ill-suited for such a weighty responsibility, yet he acknowledged that the second prince had accomplished several significant feats, earning the people's favor. While he wavered in indecision, the second prince was busy aligning himself with courtiers, including the formidable general who held military power. This was a grave offense in the emperor's eyes. The second prince's authority could be granted by the emperor, but it must never be actively sought by him, for it implied a wolfish ambition. A marriage decree was issued to both the second prince's residence and the general's estate. Yet the decree to crown the second prince as the heir remained forever suppressed. The second prince, oblivious, continued to wait foolishly. I found myself visiting the palace more frequently, not for any other reason than to show filial piety to the emperor. He tacitly approved of my actions, for he was aging. His beloved first wife cast aside to the cold palace, his eldest son deposed, his second son ambitious and treacherous, and his third son also stripped of his title. The remaining children were too young to provide any solace. Now I was the only one who could keep him company, sharing meals and taking strolls with him, waiting for his return from court to have dinner together while easing his headache with gentle massages. He once inquired why I did not return to the princess's residence. I paused for a moment before replying, Father, the vast princess's residence feels too desolate. In that instant, he seemed to empathize with my solitude, his own loneliness palpable. I believed I had garnered his sympathy, but soon after, the Ministry of Rites began arranging suitors for me. When the portraits of various young men were laid before me, I fell into silence. Each was striking in appearance, yet that was all they possessed. Their backgrounds, character, and talents were merely mediocre. I established an examination outside the princess's residence, publicly seeking a husband. Those who could pass 3 trials would become my consort. Many came, and several reached the 3rd trial. But no one succeeded in besting me in combat. The emperor deemed my endeavors frivolous, exclaiming that no honorable man could possibly be outperformed by a woman. However, when he incognito visited the princess's residence and witnessed me, clad in male attire, decisively defeating a tall and burly man, he seemed to finally believe that his delicate daughter could indeed hold her own against any man. As I wiped the sweat from my brow and joyfully leapt into the emperor's embrace after my victory, he was filled with pride. Subsequently, I donned male attire daily to accompany the emperor for meals. Some officials admonished me for disregarding propriety and defying tradition. With a retinue of defeated suitors at my side, I cornered the grandson of one such official in a narrow alley. I lifted his chin and warned, If you cry again, I shall make you my concubine before the court. The young man returned home with a pale face. I also cornered the granddaughter of that official in a tailor shop, compelling her to don male clothing before returning home. The official, enraged, finally learned to keep silent. Strangely, a trend began to emerge in the capital, where women increasingly donned male attire, and the officials ceased to decry the shifting customs. I found it perplexing. While burning incense for Xiaowuyo, I asked, What is the reasoning behind this? Do people truly revere the strong? After some time, a minister collapsed en route to court, and he had an extremely important memorial to present that day. Upon rescuing him, the first thing he did was beseech me to deliver the memorial to the palace. I boldly entered the Golden Hall, presenting the memorial to the emperor before respectfully retreating. Though it was but a fleeting glance, The sight of the hall planted a seed in my heart. In the second year of my wearing male attire, the second prince found himself in grave trouble, having been caught in an affair with a concubine from a minister's household. When this came to the emperor's knowledge, he was furious, chastising the second prince for his ambition. "Did you think I have only one son? You fool! How dare you treat a minister's daughter as your harem, taking liberties without my permission?" The second prince, trembling, knelt and wept in remorse. The emperor married the concubine to the second prince as a secondary wife, punishing him by revoking his stipend and confining him. Though this matter appeared to be resolved, I understood that the second prince would never again be in line for the throne. Meanwhile, the whispers of restoring the deposed crown prince grew louder among the officials. It was at this juncture that I visited the deposed crown prince. At this time, Li Qingze and Li Cheng'en were confined together, both appearing haggard, stripped of their former regal charm. Upon seeing me, they reacted as if they had spotted a morsel of meat. I subtly hinted at the possibility of Li Qingze's restoration, and he could hardly contain his excitement, nearly beside himself with joy. "Brother, with a little more support, father will surely release you. But I am merely a girl with no one to assist me. If only I were a man. Rest assured, I shall exert every effort, even at the cost of my life." My gaze was resolute. Li Qingze's expression shifted. "I possess a list, my final asset. Nanjing, you must use it wisely. If I can escape, I shall ensure you are named the Princess of National Defense, granting you a life free from worry. Now I understand what mother meant by one's honor is shared, and one's disgrace is shared. Without brother's protection, my days are indeed difficult. You must escape. Mother also hopes for your release to rescue her from the cold palace." Li Qingze, resolute, revealed to me the location of the list. I nodded and hurriedly departed, and indeed, I found the list and the leverage on those named where Li Qingze indicated. Everything was in place, awaiting the right moment. The second prince, believing he had lost all claim to the throne and feeling despondent, unexpectedly encountered a group of ministers fervently supporting him, pledging their unwavering loyalty. Additionally, he had acquired some funds for recruiting soldiers, bolstered by General Chen's backing. On the 20th year of the emperor's reign, a decree was issued to the second prince's residence, stating that there were assassins in the palace and instructing him to enter and apprehend them. With troops in tow, the second prince entered the palace, harboring ambitions of seizing the throne amidst the chaos of hunting down the assassins. However, he was unprepared for the sight of his intended bride, Qin Jinxiu, clad in armor, apprehending him and denouncing him as a traitorous usurper. A swift coup unfolded, arriving and departing in haste. When I stormed into the emperor's quarters clad in armor, he gazed at me in shock. In that moment, realization dawned upon him. "So, this is the ambition you have so carefully laid the groundwork for." I knelt on one knee. "Father, you have lost 3 sons. The remaining ones are still young. I do not wish to stain my hands with excessive bloodshed. The decision lies with you. You cannot, you are a woman. How could you rule?" He rebuked sharply. I replied softly, "Father, do you know why the deposed crown prince engaged in corruption?" The emperor appeared bewildered, struggling to comprehend. He had always favored the deposed crown prince, educating him from a young age, and thus could not fathom why he would succumb to corruption or ruthlessly suppress the citizens. I spoke calmly. "It is because he fears you, fears your suspicions and the weight of your judgment, that he deliberately tarnished his own reputation, rendering himself flawed. Thus, you would perceive your son as inferior, in need of your guidance, and not subject to your suspicion." However, he did not anticipate that the governor of Fuzhou would exploit his name for personal gain. He was unaware that the court's taxes, once reaching the common folk, would be successively inflated to double, triple, or even quadruple the original amount, resulting in the tragic events of Fuzhou. Ultimately, the responsibility lies with you, Father Emperor. You have grown old, and it is time for you to abdicate to the position of Emperor Emeritus. The Father Emperor stood in stunned silence for a long while, and as my patience waned, I prepared to take decisive action. Suddenly, he emitted a choking sound and collapsed to the ground. The Father Emperor had suffered a stroke. His eyes widened in disbelief, reflecting his unwillingness to accept his fate. I commanded the imperial physicians to tend to him diligently before turning to accept the support of the court officials. Unbeknownst to the Father Emperor, I had not entirely seized control of the palace. The imperial guards believed my entrance was a genuine act of loyalty, thus they did not impede my progress. His guards had not betrayed him. With a mere command, they would still be capable of battle. I was merely taking a gamble. To my astonishment, fortune favored me this time, and I emerged victorious. I had deceived the father emperor. His 3 sons were alive, though their demise was not far off. With the backing of the officials, I ascended the throne as emperor, bestowing the title of Emperor Emeritus upon my father. I decreed the marriage of the second prince to Jinjinxiu, and on the very next day, the second prince met an untimely death, leaving Jinjinxiu to become a powerful widow. Due to her contributions, I appointed her as the Grand General of the Imperial Guards, placing her on equal footing with her father, General Chen. She was no longer that pitiable girl subject to her father's whims, but a lofty princess capable of demanding respect from General Chen and exacting punishment upon her younger brother. Before his death, the second prince questioned me. Bewildered by my apparent hatred, I whispered softly in his ear. His eyes widened in disbelief as he hurled accusations at me, calling me a venomous woman and lamenting the impending doom of the state. I smiled, utterly unconcerned. The dead are the best keepers of secrets. I issued a decree for the execution of the deposed crown prince. He refused to believe it. Zhao Nanping, I am your brother. Do you dare to kill me? This is fratricide, and you shall be reviled by all. Did you ever consider, while conspiring to kill Xia Wuyo, that I am your sister and he is your brother-in-law? Are you mad? You seek vengeance for the sake of an outsider. I am your brother, your true brother, sharing the same blood. You are not my brother. I have no brother. He thought I spoke in jest, yet my words were the purest truth. The deposed crown prince was forced to drink poisoned wine. His eyes bulging in rage, contorted in agony. I whispered once more in his ear, and a spark of hatred ignited in his gaze before fading into darkness. Another soul departed without peace. As for Li Qing'an, he was rendered senseless by fear. Spare me. I will not dare again. I shall remain here for the rest of my life. I scoffed and turned away. In truth, he remained imprisoned for a lifetime, passing away at the age of 45. His youthful visage unrecognizable upon his removal. The news of Li Qing's death and Li Cheng'en's imprisonment reached the cold palace of the Empress Dowager. She cursed daily and wept nightly, demanding to see me. I maintained my cold demeanor until her voice grew hoarse and her tears ran dry, at which point I appeared before her, solemnly clad in imperial robes. She could hardly believe her eyes. Rebellious traitor, you have truly usurped the throne. You are but a woman. How can you be emperor? Where is your brother? Your younger brother? What have you done to them? In that moment, I felt a pang of emotion. It seemed she did not love the father emperor as deeply as I had presumed. I had expected her first question to be about him. I chose not to respond, instead placing various items before her one by one. She looked on in confusion. What are you doing, acting so mysteriously? I choked on my words. Mother, please take a good look at what this is. She suppressed her agitation, examining each item with increasing scrutiny. On the ground lay a swaddling cloth embroidered with a golden dragon, a handkerchief adorned with peonies, a dragon-patterned diaper, and a golden bell. The bell was exquisitely engraved with a phoenix motif, and at its base was a barely discernible character for Li. The other items did not capture her attention, but the golden bell trembled in her fingers as she recognized it, her excitement mounting. This bell had been prepared for her unborn child all those years ago. She thought it lost in the chaos, stolen away. She had even complained to me about the untrustworthy individuals in the palace, insisting that the emperor must be vigilant to avoid treachery. Yet here was the bell once more. Where did you obtain this? What has become of its rightful owner? Where is he? What have you done to him, Li Nanping? Though I may have wronged you, he is innocent. She wept bitterly, her maternal love evident. Yet her gaze toward me was that of a foe. I finally understood. She valued blood ties. Those with blood connections were her children, while those without could be discarded like refuse, regardless of how they were raised. I let out a cold chuckle. He is dead. You venomous woman. Why did you kill him? He was innocent. I raised you. You enjoyed so many years of fortune at my side. Why could you not tolerate him? She wept without dignity. Mother, there is no need for such sorrow. At least you had the chance to meet your own child. You even claimed he was of lowly birth, unworthy to oppose imperial power, and thus his death was hardly regrettable. The Empress Dowager's sobs ceased abruptly, her face a mask of shock. I was filled with a sense of vindictive pleasure. Mother, your son is Xia Wuyo. In sorting through his belongings, I discovered his secret. You are not mistaken. I do not possess a crescent moon birthmark. After his death, as I mended his corpse, I discovered his birthmark and intentionally created one for myself. The 3 months of seclusion were spent nursing my wounds. How does it feel, mother, to have personally ordered the death of your own son? The Empress Dowager let out a piercing scream and hurled herself against the wall. Blood splattered, and a metallic scent filled the air. I observed the scene, then turned away. My footsteps heavy as I departed. Under the sunlight, I felt a chill envelop me, an icy sensation creeping from my bones, only to be evaporated by the warmth of the sun. I could not help but ponder why such a tragedy befell our kin. Had they not pursued total annihilation and shown me a modicum of compassion, would all of this have transpired? When the late consort Wan faced her demise, she spoke no lies. During her reign over the harem, she had indeed swapped the Empress Dowager's child. That child had been cast out into the world. Growing up in Fuzhou, he had learned of his origins, striving to study and train in martial arts, hoping to be recognized in the Golden Luan Hall as the top scholar and unveil his lineage. Unfortunately, fate conspired against him, leading him to encounter the corrupt governor of Fuzhou. He ventured to the capital, driven by a desire to reveal his true identity and seek justice for the people of Fuzhou. He believed he could endure until the clouds parted and the moon shone, only to fall victim to an ambush, losing his memory and ultimately dying at the hands of the very kin he wished to join. The capricious nature of fate is unfathomable. Was this divine retribution against the Empress? Yet if it were punishment, why did it befall the innocent? I could not comprehend it. I could not grasp it. On the rooftop of the Golden Luan Hall, I awaited the dawn's first light. The morning bell tolled, awakening all. A new day had arrived. Xia Wuyo, should you be reincarnated, please wait for me. Allow me to create a prosperous era for you, ensuring that wherever you may be reborn, there would be books to read, clothes to wear, food to eat, and dreams to fulfill. Wait for me. I shall exert every effort to hasten the arrival of that day. The narrative concludes here. Thank you for listening, and until we meet again in the next tale.